It is now 5 o'clock, August 21st, 2018. And I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. In the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the city as housing assets successor. May we have roll call, please?
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Negretti? Mayor Garcia?
Here.
Mr. Negretti called and he says he's running about 10 minutes late.
Thank you. This is a time and place for the general public to address the City Council on any item listed or not listed on the agenda per Government Code Section 549-54.3. State law prohibits the Council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The Council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. I don't see anyone in the audience that would like to address the Council. Therefore, may we have declaration of closed session items by our city attorney, please?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We have only one item this evening. It is for the City Council, and it is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The property location is set forth on the agenda, as are the negotiating parties. To the extent there's reportable action, we would report it either at the conclusion of the closed session or immediately upon the commencement of the 6 o'clock regular session.
Thank you. At this time, we will recess to our closed session, and our regular session convenes at 6 p.m. Please take your seats. I'm starting now.
Okay.
It is 6 o'clock. It is now 6 o'clock, August 21st, 2018. And I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. In the City Council seating is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the city as housing assets successor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Negretti?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here. May we have a declaration of closed session items by our city attorney, please?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We only had one closed session item this evening. It was real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The real property is listed on the agenda, and the negotiating parties were listed on the agenda. At this point, there is no reportable action with respect to that item.
Thank you. This evening we will have the invocation. Just a second. Let me see. I think yeah. Okay. This evening we will have the invocation by Pastor Javier Ramirez of First Christian Church. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Police Chief Rick Bassinger, so please stand.
Yeah, I'd like to read a psalm first here. Lord, you have us. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad, and my tongue rejoices. My body also rests secure. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I come before you to ask that you guide this panel in all their decisions, that you give them the wisdom to make the choices that will make this city not only prosper, but a city that will come to know you better, so that united we can all make these a better city for us and the future generations to come. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ready, begin.
This evening, I do have one presentation, a certificate of recognition to Dolores Williams with Millionaire Mind Kids, and then we will have a presentation by our county assessor, Bob Dutton, general update including assessment roll data. First of all, I will come down and do the presentation. On behalf of the Victorville City Council, I would like to present this certificate of recognition for your outstanding educational organization, Millionaire Mind Kids, which annually provides free educational programs and meals to hundreds of high desert youth. Thank you for your commitment to improving the lives of Victorville's youth. Congratulations. And I have this certificate of recognition. This certificate is presented to Millionaire Mind Kids, MMK. Congratulations on your success in collaborating with educators, local businesses, government, and community to provide free educational programs to the youth of the high desert. Your commitment to fostering student empowerment and confidence while promoting sustainable life skills is to be commended. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you so very much. We appreciate everything that you do. And again, congratulations. Thank you, Dolores. Thank you. At this time, I will have our city clerk present the agenda to council and any revisions to the agenda, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. We do have that presentation by our county assessor. Forgive me.
Madam Mayor, members of council, and citizens of Victorville, it's my pleasure to be here tonight to present a little information about the county assessor's office and recorder's office. The question that had been brought to me numerous times over the last few years, especially when I first ran for office back 4 years ago. And by the way, I'm not up for re-election here in November. I've already been reelected in June, so I'm not here for political reasons. I'm strictly here to give you a report. But one of the things that became pretty obvious to me, I was a former state senator for the county, and when I was in the state senate, it was pretty easy for me to come down and get people's attention and get their interest because I served with Governor Schwarzenegger and of course Jerry Brown as well, Governor Brown. But when I first met Governor Schwarzenegger, I used to like to tell the stories about my first meeting with Governor Schwarzenegger, and he marched us all in there. I was a freshman member of the assembly, and they marched us in there 2 by 2, and the first thing we saw on his desk as his marker was his sword from Conan the Barbarian. And that was my introduction to Governor Schwarzenegger. He was bigger than life, and that was certainly interesting stories to be able to tell people. But what happened when I decided to run for the assessor recorder, it was kind of hard trying to get people interested in exactly what does the assessor do. And so I started taking a look at the history of the assessor. And tonight on the presentation, I'll be talking about the history of the assessor, what our roles are and what they are not. The recent assessment data, we closed out the role effective July 1st, and I've got some news to share with you on that. But also tell you a little bit about the recorder clerk's responsibilities and an update in those offices. And then also I got a little surprise for you, but a little presentation for you, because when I was elected, I didn't know it, but I was also put in charge of county archives. And so gave me an opportunity to really do some really fun stuff. And I do have something special for Victorville tonight. Property tax levies have been around since the beginning of civilization. And a lot of times the assessors back in the early days of Farrell's, we kept the records. Now, the assessors back in those days, they were considered to be some of the more well-educated people because they knew how to read and write, and they could tally numbers and things of that nature. We kept records for the Farrell as to who owned property, the size of their fields, and the amount of their livestock. Quite common, we were also tax assessors at the same time. We often used to get a percentage of whatever we collected. Therefore, some might question what an assessor how they might have been motivated to create value. That does not exist today, by the way. And when the Farrell died, it was quite common practice that people would be buried with the Farrell to service them after death. The only trouble is they were still alive when they got put in with the Farrell. Now, they did that with everybody but the assessor. Because, see, the new Farrell needed the assessor. Because the assessor's the one that knew who owned what and also knew how to collect money. So that was part of what happened back in those days. Let's fast forward to 1850, when the California Constitution was created, and it provided that the office of the assessor be an elected position. It's one of a few positions that are specified in the state constitution that must be elected by the people, and that's the assessor, the county sheriff, the district attorney, and the local governing body. And those are all required by state constitution to be elected positions. In 1853, the California legislature created the county of San Bernardino. And the county of San Bernardino was made up of parts of Los Angeles, San Diego, and also Mariposa counties. During the early years, the assessor covered the entire county by horseback. And what you'll see up on the slide there is a little doodling. The early assessor, the first assessor for San Bernardino County, prided himself as being a doodler. And so we have numerous works of art that he created. That's a self-portrait right there. But the assessor also back in those early days was the superintendent of schools and also the registrar of voters. The assessor could register the voters at the same time they were trying to collect money. If they were also assigned, by the way, back in those days, the assessor was determining value, but sometimes the Board of Supervisors would appoint the assessor as also the tax collector. Sometimes the sheriff was appointed. That was not a position that had to be elected. That was something that the Board of Supervisors could actually appoint the responsibility to. But in those early days, we could register voters, we could list all persons subject to military duty, we assessed property values, and like I said, and that happens to be a picture of the assessor. It's a self-portrait up there. However, today the San Bernardino County Assessor is responsible only for locating and identifying all taxable properties, establishing the assessed value of the properties, and submitting the annual and supplemental assessment rolls. What I don't do is I don't collect taxes, I don't register voters, and I don't oversee schools anymore. Here's a typical property tax bill, and I give that to you by example, and I'm sorry it's not maybe as easy to read as what I'd like it to be, but the top line of those tax bills is the only thing that I have anything to do with. I'm not the tax collector, but the value I put on properties is the basis for how that top line is computed. Now, you take a look at all those others. This one here happens to be from the Rancho Cucamonga area, but you'll see various landscape districts, the Chaffey College bond, Etiwanda School bond. You've got a whole bunch of things there, Metropolitan Water bond and so forth. I have nothing to do with those, and they may be called assessment districts, but they have nothing to do with the Office of the Assessor. The phone number that you see adjoining each one of those line items, and it'll be the same for any properties out here in Victorville, that's who you need to call if you have questions regarding that particular item. Now, one item I do want to bring to your attention, because I have gotten some concerns from veterans especially. I'm getting calls about the Sandbag Hero program, because that particular line item, in this case here, is almost as much as the general property tax liability. I have referred a couple of cases over to the district attorney's office for them to investigate for possible real estate fraud, because it became pretty obvious to me in talking to those citizens that they didn't fully understand what the HERO program was. And so part of my job too, even though I'm not the tax collector, when my office does get inquiries about tax bills, we do have knowledge of it, and we will try to answer those questions for the people of San Bernardino County, so that they aren't just kind of keep being bandied around between various departments and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I'd like to encourage all of you that if you ever have constituents that have questions about their assessed valuations or questions about their tax bills, please feel free to have them call my office. It won't cost them anything for us to take a look at the value that's been placed on there. They don't need a professional consultant. Let us take a look at it to make sure that they've been treated fairly and they got a square deal from the assessor's office. The assessment roll for 2018 consisted of over 813,482 taxable parcels. And by the way, we have a staff of roughly about 65, 70 appraisers that are responsible for determining the assessed valuations on those parcels. The value this last year, we hit an all-new high, was over $221 billion. The countywide average of increase for this last year was 7.3%. That's 7.3% increase over 2017. Next chart will show you the historical trend for the county's growth since 1978. And as you can see, we've really sustained some pretty good growth here in San Bernardino County. We're on a nice incline, and that's a combination of a lot of different things that have happened. Increase in sales activity, obviously, Prop 13 inflationary increases, which are capped at 2% a year, and also the restored assessed valuation under Proposition 8, which the High Desert had the greatest impact of all areas of San Bernardino County. Proposition 8 was that proposition that was passed that would give you the right to have your value, a decline in value, below what the Prop 13 levels would dictate. But also, too, Prop 8 says that it's only good for 1 year. So those values have to be recalculated every year. And so part of the increase that we've seen is due to the recovery due to Prop 8 reductions. Now we go to the city of Victorville. In 2018, Victorville has secured value of over $8.1 billion. That's a 5.4% increase over the previous year. Unsecured value, which is mostly business operations, business property, equipment, that type of thing, We saw an increase of 8.9% increase. That shows some small business growth and development taking place. At least that's what it's indicating to me. The total value was $8.7 billion, combined both of the secured and unsecured, for an actual annual increase of 5.7%. The latest supplemental extraction that we just completed in August, that added another $70 million to the value stated here in the roll. Now, my philosophy or my policies regarding that is I always tell all my appraisers to make sure that you try to put it in at the low end of the value scale. When appraisers do value judgments or estimates and opinions, they usually have a range in value. It's kind of like the blue book for cars. You'll see a low and a high value. I always tell my people to make sure that we always put it at that low end, because frankly, if I'm going to make an error, I want to err on the side of the taxpayer, not on the side of the government, so to speak. The 10-year trend in Victorville, and this is the chart from 2008 with the height of the market, showing the decline that took place till today. The value in 2008 was $8.9 billion, and the value today is $8.7. So it shows that we pretty much have now finally recaptured and are back to about where we were at the height of the market. Now, there is some differences that I've noticed countywide, and back in 2008 when we hit our high, that was due to a huge amount of new construction, and that's not the case today. Less than 10% is actually due to new construction. Now, I think that's good and bad. It doesn't show that we're doing a lot of new development, but at the same token, it also shows that we're sustaining our property values and they are increasing on a natural. There again, I look at that as a former somebody who used to invest in real estate and also out here in the high desert as well. I'm seeing a nice incline that's going on here, and that makes me feel very good. It's a good trend. At least I would feel that way. Now, as the county assessor, I can't make economic forecasts. I'm not going to do that. So I'm speaking from my personal, professional background in real estate to show I'm really feeling good about what I'm seeing happening in the high desert, and especially here in Victorville. The notable growth areas, like I said, were a combination of a couple of things, but here specifically, you had your distribution warehouse for Rubbermaid. That added to it, obviously. You got a 105-lot housing tract in the south of Bear Valley Boulevard or Road, and you also have built 2 new hotels in the area. Those have all added to the increase in those values. You can go to our website. They're at sbcountyarcblog.org, and that'll give you a lot of this data is there, and it's available to the public as well as yourself. If you can't find something, just have somebody contact our office, and we'll make sure you get the information that you're looking for. In San Bernardino County, the assessor, there was a county charter amendment back in 2011, but you're also, as a county assessor, you're also the county recorder. And I'm also the appointed county clerk. And I'd like to share with you a little bit of what's happened with the recorder and clerk's office as well. Now, we do have one out here in the high desert community. It's in the city of Hesperia. It's in the county government center over there. So we can do a full range of services to the people who live in the high desert. They don't have to drive all the way into San Bernardino. But here in San Bernardino, we did record over 550,000 documents last year. We issued and recorded over 10,000 marriage licenses. We married over 4,800 couples, because you don't have to have us marry you. We've just issued the license if that's what you prefer. We issued over 90,000 certificates. We filed over 14,000 fictitious business name statements, and we cataloged over 30,000 items to the historical archives. And would you care to venture a guess, other than Valentine's Day, what's the most popular day to get married? It happens to be Halloween. Well, I can't tell you why. Also, one of the most popular days we have out here in the high desert is our no appointment necessary Thursdays. We got people lining up over in the Hesperia office to get married on no appointment Thursday. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but that just seems to be the way it goes. But in any case, we pride ourselves on being accessible to the community to make sure their needs are all addressed. For San Bernardino County, one of the other things I did, in addition to having full recorder and clerk services available here in the high desert, as well as in the city of San Bernardino area, we also just expanded those services out to Joshua Tree as well. So we're trying to expand services to the people of San Bernardino County so it's more convenient to them. Now, one of the fun things I do is also, and to my surprise, I was put in charge of the San Bernardino County Historical Archives. And the reason why was really actually made a lot of sense. You see, as the assessor, I have to maintain property records going all the way back to the 1853s. So to the 1800s, and so it made sense. I have to restore those and keep records of them. Same thing with the Office of the Recorder. And we just happened to have the best system in place at the time. Now, I wasn't the assessor recorder at the time, but that's the reason why they decided to make our operation also in charge of county archives. And it's a wonderful resource for the public and the county staff for information. It's a great resource. They got some good people there. Genevieve, our director for the archives, she has background. She actually came from Huntington Library. I was really surprised to find that we had somebody of that caliber available here in San Bernardino County. One of the things that we started doing is our Throwback Thursday series. And we actually received an award last year, or this year, a NACO award. And I'm pleased to actually show you one of those. It started with actually the Zizek Avenue. We did a thing about the Zizek off-ramp there off the 15, and we actually went viral with that, 3.2 million hits. And so it was quite an interesting situation with that. But what we're doing right now is archives. When I was on the city council in Rancho Cucamonga, I was big on history, on creating an oral history series back then. Well, we're kind of taking this to the next step. We're going to start doing video history of County of San Bernardino, talk about how some of the cities got their early beginnings and so forth. And we actually do have the story of Victorville that I'd like to play for you now. And I'd like to introduce you the creator of the video series. Daniel, where are you hiding? There he is back there. On our website, you can also access other videos that have been prepared for other areas of San Bernardino County. I'm not running out of material. It's a big county. You can even see about Dorsey, the mail-carrying dog that used to deliver mail between the mining camps. And we actually did a reenactment of that using my Labrador Retriever, Cash. You'll see him starring in that video. But also, there used to be the Camel Brigade here, too. The military actually was experimenting with the use of camels, and they found that our desert region was an ideal test ground for those types of situations. So anyway, that concludes my presentation. I do have two representatives here from the assessor's office. Leon Bennett, who's the district supervisor here in the high desert. Leon. And also Chris Wilhite. He used to be the district he was district, but he got promoted a couple of years ago to principal appraiser in the office. So if you have any complaints, you actually want to talk to them. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I want to thank you for allowing me to spend a few moments with you, and I would look forward to giving you an update next year. We do complete the roll every year, July 1st, so that would give you, anytime after that, would give you the most up-to-date information that we have. Do keep in mind, we don't forecast. I'm only reporting what has actually already happened. And if you ever do have any constituents, any citizens who have questions or concerns, keep in mind we have over 800,000 parcels. We've only got a staff of 64 or 65 appraisers that really look at that. Some of these appraisals are generated by computer programming and so forth, and errors can be made. So if somebody ever feels like maybe they're being too highly assessed, they need to call us. It doesn't cost them anything, and just request a review. That's all they have to do, and we'll make sure they get treated fairly and get a good deal. Anyway, that is my presentation. I want to thank you, Madam Mayor and members, for allowing me to spend a few minutes.
Assessor Jack.
If any people in the audience do have questions, I will remain outside while you go on with the council meeting for any questions. So.
Okay. Thank you so very much. It was so educational. I learned a whole lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful presentation. Okay, at this time, I will have our city clerk present the agenda to council and revisions to the agenda.
The City Council of the City of Victorville welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Persons who wish to address the council on a specific item or any item that does not appear on the agenda are requested to complete one of the white speaker cards located in the council chambers lobby and give it to the city clerk prior to the meeting. The mayor will call upon each individual who has submitted a speaker card. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments made during the public hearings, written communications, or public comment sections of the agenda are to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker or less, as deemed necessary by the mayor. Communications are to be addressed directly to the city council. Individual comments to staff or members of the audience are not permitted. Any person or group who interferes with the conduct of a city council meeting by willfully interrupting and or disrupting the meeting is subject to removal. A peace officer may be requested to assist with the removal should any person or group fail to comply with an order of removal by the council. Any person or group who resists removal by a peace officer is subject to arrest and prosecution pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.9, Penal Code Section 403. Thank you for your cooperation. All documents to be considered for approval at this meeting are before the council. Following our one revision that has been submitted for tonight. Revision to item C1, revised notice of completion to correct an error changing phase 2 to phase 1.
Thank you. This evening, we do not have any appeal hearings. Therefore, we move on to public hearings, and I will start with item B1. Request for continuance for consideration of ordinance number 2381. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council open the public hearing, take testimony, and continue the public hearing to the September 4th, 2018 meeting.
Are there any questions of staff by council members?
Yes, why are we moving this forward to September 4th? Is it procedural? Is it the second reading? What was the explanation?
The reason in particular as to why we're continuing is that I've asked for some additional time to be able to thoroughly review and also have members of the team thoroughly review the actual changes before taking action.
Anyone else? No? At this time, I open the public hearing, and I do have one speaker card. Ramiro Rodriguez.
Yes. I Googled and asked everybody, and I called several times to City Hall, and they weren't able to answer the question, and what is the reasoning for raising the amount allotted for the city manager for expense, to do the expense from $25,000 to $50,000. Was there a situation in which warranted raising that that amount in the past? There's history that he wanted to purchase something for the city that warrants that he wasn't able to, and that's the reason that you're raising it from $25,000 to $50,000. It's just for general information for myself and everybody else. Would you be able to answer that, please? I guess that would be to the city manager.
Well, this is a public hearing. We take all testimony. We don't engage. We can't engage you. You asked a question.
Well, my question was just the reasoning for that. That's all. That's it?
I would redirect that for staff to sit down with him and make an appointment so that he gets his answers to what he's asking for.
At this time, I need a motion and a second to continue the public hearing to September 4th, 2018.
Certainly, you can make comments if it's okay with the presiding officer. Still part of the public hearing.
Yeah, I was the one that originally proposed this. I think it was absolute for the convenience of the council and the ease of administration. Process $200 million, $250 million through the city of Victorville, and we were having to make decisions on $25,000 items that frankly just weren't necessary for us to get involved at that level. We looked around at all the cities in the desert and other cities, and we had a very, very low purchasing authority for city managers. 50 was a much more common purchasing level, and it made sense to do it, so that's why we made this change.
Thank you. So I need a anyone else?
Yeah, if we're on B1, we're supposed to be on municipal code to, increase. Isn't this also for the policy for the entire book, not just the manager's increase for the handbook?
No, this has nothing to do with the handbook or the policy manual. This is a proposed revision to the municipal code.
So I have a question, if I may. So has the city manager already exercised any of his any of these types of power increases after $20,000? Yes or no?
No. Currently, the code does not provide for my authority to execute contracts above $25,000. Those items do come back to this council for approval, and in fact, that's exactly what Councilmember Kennedy just spoke to. Is the intent of this item is to help streamline the administration so as to largely not slow down our ability to conduct business. And the increase, I think, really is intended to help better facilitate our administration of the operation. So, no, I haven't exercised anything above that authority. The current limit is $25,000.
Okay, so I'm going to ask that as soon as your purchasing power begins, since everything seems to be untransparent to me as a council member, I don't if everybody else, but I would request that we start receiving some sort of itemized line, what it's for and the amount. So it's very simple, what your purchasing power, how is it that you're distributing it? Because I know in the beginning when this was added, it was said that you didn't know specifically what it would affect. And since you don't know, I figured none of us would know. So something simplistic like a list with a title and the amount that you approved. And I would like to see that at least on a monthly basis.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, as discussed earlier, this item is up for continuance, and staff will continue furthering its review of this draft ordinance to make sure that it's comfortable with the way it reads. Given Councilmember Gomez's comments, if the council so desires for that kind of reporting, I would suggest that perhaps the council directs staff to go ahead and consider including that in the draft ordinance, and we can therefore bring that language back. That way it's clear as to what the expectation is of the city manager.
And I appreciate your comment, Mr. City Manager, and I would from now on also ask that any other council member who asks for any other direction that you ask for the same level of majority vote, because this is the first time that you're asking for that, and I know it's because Mrs. Councilmember Gomez is asking you. So please continue to do that, or I will call you out on when you're not doing anything for anybody else that does the same.
We're looking for a motion now to continue.
Yes, I need it.
This is to continue the public hearing.
Correct.
Correct.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Cox. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item B2, a public hearing to hear arguments for and against amendments to the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the city as a housing assets, a successor board of directors, conduct a public hearing to receive citizen and agency comments regarding the draft substantial amendment to the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, NSP 1 and NSP 3, and approve and adopt the plan amendment as presented for submittal to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. Any questions by council members of staff?
Yes, is this item also going to be continued or not this one?
Madam Mayor, there's no request to continue this item at this time.
Okay, so my following question is, I'm reading this and it says that for the NSP we're going to be having, there's a list of things like property, all these things that are in here. I know Sophie's the one that deals with this item. Sophie, there's not a list in here, and I would like to look at a list. I know in the past we've gone over it in closed session, but I don't see the list of all these properties that are just quickly here at a gaze. So I'm looking at, it says housing crisis by providing funding for local agencies to purchase abandoned and or foreclosed properties and for the rehab and resale of the properties. So what I'm asking for is literally for a list of the abandoned, foreclosed properties, and for those rehabs and those ones that are being sold, the same thing, just a generic, maybe if you have an address or a list is foreclosed and the property value or the valuation of that item. That could be included from now on in items like this, so I can look over and be like, oh, okay, well, now I know this is foreclosed, now this is this, and that. The same thing that I had requested for the city manager.
So this item, Councilmember Gomez, the properties that were acquired and rehabilitated were actually completed in 2016. And so what this item would be asking for is the ability to amend the plan and allow us to conduct new activities, redevelopment in areas like Old Town, and participate in some multifamily, not single-family projects in the northern part of town. So there is no list, and those items would come back to you individually to approve.
Okay, so for instance, if we go back to 2016, there is no list for the abandoned homes or any foreclosure properties that you can give me.
Yes, if you're asking for a list from the past, we do have a list from the past.
Okay, then I would
Okay.
like a list from, if you're saying 2016 until now, just something, so I could look at the list if you have something that shows the foreclosures and the properties and.
Not 2016 until now. They actually ended in 2016 and
Okay.
started a couple years before to address the foreclosure crisis.
So just 2015 to 2016, that would be fine, so I have an idea.
Anyone else?
Just a comment. I think this change in the NSP program is a first effort on our part to deal with the homelessness problem, and particularly focus on those who don't want to be homeless anymore. That is the group that I think we have a hope of helping. So I'm really glad to see this.
At this time, I open the public hearing. I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I close the public hearing. Once I close the public hearing, I will not take any further comments or comments. And at this time, I would ask for a motion in a second.
Move approval of the item.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to consent calendar. Consent calendar items C1 through C12 can be approved with one motion unless there is an item that needs to be removed for discussion.
Yes, I'd like to pull C4, 5, and 6.
Madam Mayor, move approval of C1 through C3 and C7 through C12.
Madam Mayor, before taking the vote, can I just call attention to the revision that's in front of you? There is a small typo that was found on item C1, and we just want to make sure that we're properly referencing the project as Phase 1, not Phase 2, as illustrated in the staff report.
Correct.
We have a motion for
We had a
exception
revision.
4, 5, and 6. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So for C6, just so you're aware, my folder is incomplete, and I'll just probably throw it out there for C10. My folder is also missing the item, so I would appreciate it that my folder would be completed. I know it's a lot of folders, but just want to place that on the record for C6 and C10. The next thing is for C4. Can you give me a little bit background on Charter and Spectrum and the amount of money that we're going to spend, $157,000? I read it's for a lot of City Hall, some probably parks, fire stations. It was at Esri.
No, so actually, Councilmember Gomez, if I may, this is a contract with Charter Communications for our internet service and data service. It includes all of the city facilities, so it would include the City Hall, all of the fire station locations, park locations, and anywhere else that we have an internet connection that we utilize to access the internet, as well as to interconnect between the facilities.
Okay, so I saw the maximum of the cost would be City Hall. We all use the computers. However, I saw with different descriptions the sales of 0, 0, and 0, but they're placed here. When I went online to look at these areas, there were parks, so I want to understand why they're placed here, and are we offering maybe at the park system level a Wi-Fi or any kind of services?
So we've identified certain locations that will not have service locations, but they've been evaluated. If the second part of your question is, can we get Wi-Fi at some of the park locations, that is something that we can discuss with the team and then bring back at a later time for council consideration.
Okay, and then those zeros then, are they just placeholders?
Yeah, they're just identifying locations and the service that's being provided.
Okay, so that...
And some, it would not require an upgrade or even in the installation. It's just listing all of the locations.
So for this item, then the zeros is they're not costing us anything, but there is a cost for all of these. They're just placeholders identifying.
It's a full list of all of our facilities, and
Okay.
then listing the facilities affected by this particular action.
All right, thank you. No further questions. And C5. Can you also give me a brief explanation of this particular? I'm thinking it has to do with the SEC settlement type of casing where financial, we're gonna have two independent individuals, blah, blah, blah. But if that's the case, I want clarification.
Yeah, actually it has nothing to do with the SEC. This is an annual requirement. This is your spending limit. It's your appropriations limit that all cities must do, actually all government agencies must do. They have to perform this calculation at the time their budget is adopted to assure that they're not spending outside of what the statute requires or allows for spending based on certain metrics, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it talks about the local government tax.
Right. And so as you recall, when you adopted your budget at the end of June, the total appropriation was about $250 million. This calculation says that we could, based on this calculation, based on the metrics, spend up to $1 billion. Well, we don't have $1 billion. It's just a calculation that we have to perform every year by statute to assure that we're not spending outside of those limits
And
that
this
are allowed
has
statutorily.
and this has nothing to do with the golf course.
Has nothing to do with.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
No further questions. Move approval of 4, 5, and 6, Madam Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to written communications. Item D1, revising the Renewable Energy Resources Procurement Plan. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council adopt Resolution Number 18-067 to revise the Renewable Energy Resources Procurement Plan and superseding Resolution Number 15-065 in its entirety.
Thank you. Any questions from council members of staff? If not, I do have one speaker card. Robert Lawton.
Yes, I'm Robert Lawton. I certainly don't understand, and I don't think the citizens of Victorville understand how you can buy renewable energy. I mean, there's no private line from a solar farm into Victorville. It all goes into the grid, and so I really don't understand how you're going to buy renewable energy. It all goes into the grid: electrical power, solar power, fossil fuel power, hydroelectric dams. It all goes into the grid, so I don't think your citizens of Victorville understand that buying renewable energy resources. And I tried to read the your supplements about about buying renewable energy, and for the information of those that happen to be listening on to this program over the cable, or people in the audience, CO2, carbon dioxide, is plant food. I learned that in 6th grade when we studied photosynthesis. A plant takes takes sunlight, water, and minerals from the soil, and makes plant food, which is the sugar for the plants for them to grow. So carbon dioxide in our atmosphere is 0.04%. It is not a harmful gas. And solar activity, solar minimums created the ice age, and so the only thing that changes climate is solar activity. And I would like people that are listening to this go to YouTube and put in global warming, British for genocide. It might still be there, or else.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, if Mark Zuckerberg didn't take it off. As far as rising sea levels, there's no way you can measure that. Our planet is 70% ocean, and floating ice does not raise the sea level when it melts. The only thing you have to do is go to 7-Eleven, buy a Slurpee, mark the water level or the soda level on your can.
Your
and
time
then
is
let
up.
it sit and melt, and then the water level will go down. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the only card that I had. So at this time, we need a motion in a second.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'd like Keith to explain why the gentleman's concerns really don't relate to the item on the agenda.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I can't really speak to some of the global warming comments of the speaker, but what I can tell you is, as a part of the state's desire to reduce carbon emissions altogether, it has mandated all utilities, including publicly owned utilities, such as the publicly owned utility that we operate both at SCLA and at Foxborough. And this item deals with the regulations where we have to achieve certain thresholds or certain levels of procurement in our power portfolio. And currently, we consume power. We sell almost 100,000 megawatt hours a year of power at the two locations. And the regulations require that of that power that we sell, X percentage has to be renewable. And currently we do not have any renewable in our portfolio, but this plan is to help identify what we need to achieve and when. And it actually does include one of our first efforts very recently to start working towards that, and that's a solar power purchase contract that we recently entered into with a company called Hecate, where we'll actually bring solar electrons onto the grid, and that's how it works. We currently pull all of our electricity off the grid. It ties largely into Victor Sub here in Victorville, and then we pull the electrons off.
But the point I wanted to make is that this is an issue that involves the Victorville Municipal Utility Service. It's VMUS. There probably isn't a person in this room that's affected by any transactions we have with VMUS. It's a handful of customers at Foxborough and SCLA. Doesn't involve any of the residential power in Victorville. So it's a commitment VMUS has to honor with the state.
Correct.
But it only involves those customers. So it's kind of irrelevant to the people in this room and the residents of Victorville.
Correct. I think the only thing worth noting, different than previous years, because we do this annually, is that we are now able to identify a source coming online in about 2020 of solar power. We actually have a plan to start taking on more, and we'll continue to work towards these goals.
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments?
So to comply with state law in regards to the renewable energy, so you're not asking us right now for any budget appropriations, just for an expansion of the resolution adoption for 2018-2019, is that correct?
This item is specifically asking for the adoption of the resolution that approves the Renewable Energy Resources Plan. It has nothing to do with budget or money at this
Right.
point.
Okay, thank you. Will this be a yearly happening? This is recursory.
This is an annual requirement.
Okay. And so we're approving and revising the renewable energy source procurement plan, superseding the resolution that was in place before. And that's the motion right now, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D2, amendment to standard lease agreement for Building 678 and 682A. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority approve the Second Amendment to the Standard Lease Agreement by and between SCLAA and Boeing, Incorporated, for Building 678 and 682A, and adopt Resolution Number SCLAA 18-004, amending the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget for additional revenue in the amount of $97,409.
Thank you. Any questions of staff by council members?
Yes, it's approximately the $97,000 revenue going back. What fund is it going back to? And is this a renewal or a renegotiation?
The revenue that's generated from this transaction is revenue that's generated to the benefit of the airport. So it would actually go back to the airport fund, which right there in the fiscal impact on the staff report, it looks like it's Fund 450. The transaction that's before you is an exercise of an option to an existing lease agreement and also adds square footage to one of our large wide-body hangars at the airport that's occupied by Boeing. It also calls for them to expand or extend a term for a much smaller facility, 682. Airport Director Eric Ray is here. He's got some better details that can kind of capture a little bit more about the transaction and what Boeing is accomplishing here.
Oh, thought you handled it so well. Specifically, this what we did budgeted for this for revenue increases with Boeing for the year. We were pleasantly surprised when they took on the extra square footage, so this will roll up into a larger rental account.
Eric, for the benefit of the audience, maybe talk about what Boeing is doing in this facility.
Oh, sure. Boeing's work level has increased precipitously here recently. They're getting more airlines that are coming in wanting to do upgrades, Wi-Fi upgrades, and various cabin improvements. They've also increased their fleet care service. That's essentially a warranty program on new airplanes. The additional growth that they're hoping to see now is also partly with the Capital Group. The Capital Group has grown, so there's more aircraft that are coming in that are coming off of leases, and new airplanes are replacing those. So there's a continuous rotation of airplanes coming in. Their MRO component, their maintenance, repair, and operation component has expanded to take some of the new airplanes, which are only 4 or 5 years old. They're coming off a lease, getting them refurbished, and getting them back out to secondary customers.
Madam Mayor, I have a quick question. It's good to see you, Eric, for these occasions. These are really great news stories, and I don't think we really highlight a lot of the successes that have been happening at the airport lately. But every time we're able to add additional revenue is a good news story, so this is fantastic. But could you maybe describe sort of what's going on regionally, with the other airports, maybe they've outgrown space, you've got current tenants that are needing more space, and just sort of, I get the sense that we're really looking at some continued growth at the airport. Whereas, sometimes we're not, and maybe the public's not aware of exactly what is going on at the airport.
I agree with you. Aviation as a whole is a highly leveraged industry. It's not steady. It grows very precipitously in these times of growth, and it falls off quite precipitously when the economy gets bad. We, for the last 10 years, have experienced that bad. Now we're seeing where the aircraft are being turned over more often. We're seeing more, the public is flying more now than ever. Times are good. It is economically viable for companies to replace airplanes, so a lot of the capital expenditures that companies have had put off for years has now come into fruition, and the timing's great. These new airplanes are getting about 15% better fuel economy. They're more comfortable. They're quiet. They're incredibly quiet airplanes. So airports that had severe noise restrictions are now allowing those aircraft in. So we're seeing that throughout the industry. We went to a MRO, a maintenance, repair, and operations conference in Florida in April, and we saw the same thing everywhere across the board. We saw that the industry is growing. There's a demand for more labor, which is a huge issue, something that we're trying to work with the college to help get that labor force to SCLA, because it continues. The demand right now is outpacing the supply. The interesting part is companies like Boeing, very wealthy companies, they don't buy real estate. They don't want to own real estate, particularly hangars. So we need to have product. And we're at a position now where we're getting really close to not having any more product. We're talking to some companies on the smaller pieces that are on the outskirts, that are kind of off the airfield, but we'll soon be out. So it is a time now that's imperative for us to look to that next level, and that's trying to find investment to put hangars in. And there are long, as we all know, there are long lead items to build. So ideally speaking, you need to build a product before the need actually comes. So that'll be a next phase of our planning: is where do we take the airport next? Where do we look to grow, and how do we get there? Thank you for asking. That's a great question.
That's a wonderful problem to have.
Yes, ma'am. It is. Yes.
Else? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I need a motion in a second.
Move approval of staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D3, purchase and sale agreements for right-of-way acquisition for Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council approve the purchase and sale agreements for right-of-way acquisition for the Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project for Kenneth Martin Jr., APN number 3090-341-04, and Green Tree Bridge LLC, APN number 0480-021-11.
Thank you. Council members, any questions of staff?
Just one, Madam Mayor, from me. And I understand the right-of-way acquisition process. We've been through it before. It was a lengthy process on the Nisqually interchange. But I'm a little bothered when I'm dealing with a seller. Name is Green Tree Bridge LLC. Seems to me like we've got somebody who did a little speculation on this Green Tree extension and ran out and bought a piece of property that they thought they could sell to the city for a pretty good price. All I'm concerned about, not the price, not the value, I think we've done our due diligence. Is there any possibility of some insider information or trading or any self-dealing or any special communication with these people? Do we know who they are that are behind this Green Tree Bridge LLC?
We know one of the owners, but our consultant has done the main contact with them. So usually the contact isn't with staff, although I personally did have contact with one of the owners of this property. It's the shopping center at the northeast corner of Hesperia and Green Tree.
Can I answer my question?
So I do not have contact with all the property owners, but I know that our right-of-way consultant dealt with one representative that represented all the property owners. That's about all I can tell you. The other part of your question I really don't have an answer to.
I mean, the other buyer may have also speculated. We have no way of knowing that, but
We don't really know that.
that one just strikes me as odd. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have several questions. The first one is, why didn't staff consolidate the next agenda with this one? The next question is, didn't we discuss at some point that there was going to be on Green Tree Boulevard 6 lanes? And what's the impact or the advantages of the properties on the Green Tree Boulevard, whether it's regarding their assessor's valuation or other values that aren't written in this report?
Would you mind repeating the first question?
Yeah, the next item seems like it would be a part of this one, but it's not. So instead of asking it then, I figured I asked now. They seem they're both on Green Tree. And the next one was, didn't we talk about 6 lanes? I know there's going to be 4, but I thought we spoke something about 6. And then the next one was the property value and how it affects that trench where this is going to be soon built.
Okay. On the first question, the reason the next item was separated is because it's a different action. It's a different recommendation. The next item really doesn't relate to this property acquisition, so it's independent of it. So that's why it was in 2 separate items. Regarding the 6-lane design, on our circulation map, ultimately Green Tree is designated as a 6-lane facility. However, for this project, the right-of-way that we are acquiring is for a 4-lane facility, and that it could be widened later. And as development occurs along the alignment, they can be required to dedicate and to widen right-of-way for the 6-lane facility.
The advantages, what happens to the value of these homes and the impacts or the facilitation for the surrounding commercial and residential areas?
I really can't answer that question. All I know is that when the right-of-way is appraised, it is based on values compared to comparable sales. So it's based on current information. I don't have any information on what could happen in the future.
Okay, but clearly when you do anything that's modified or enhanced, it brings up the values. But thank you for that response. I have another question. When is the project expected to be completed? And of the 20 properties that are affected, how many of them has the city taken through eminent domain?
So far, we have not initiated eminent domain on any properties. As far as the project schedule, we don't really know when construction will start because that depends on the construction funding. And council has not made a decision yet on a potential loan for construction funding. That will come sometime in the future. So we don't really know when construction will start. We're still in the design and right-of-way phase. We could complete those phases, but we can't predict when we would start construction.
Okay, and my last question is, would you remind the council what the net cost of this project is? Brief us with the direct, indirect, and share costs and the involvement of the parties to this project.
In round numbers, the total project cost is about $40 million. That includes design costs, right-of-way costs, and construction costs, including construction management. Those cost estimates need to be updated, but that was based on estimates we had from about a year ago. As far as the other costs, we have not. Was one of the questions about indirect costs?
Yeah, indirect and sharing.
The cost estimates we've done only include those components. We have not estimated any other costs.
So we won't have involvement for Measure I, LTF, or SBCTA monies?
Are you asking about what funding sources there are for the project?
Yeah.
Okay, so the funding sources we have for the project right now, we have federal demonstration grants that are funding the design and the right-of-way. We also have money from SBCTA. It's their Measure I money, which is called the Major Local Highway Program. That's funding part of the right-of-way. And then for the construction phase, if council were to decide to enter into a loan agreement with SBCTA, then they would be loaning Measure I money to us, and over time we would be paying back our share with road development impact fees over time. So those are the major funding sources.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I might, I just wanted to address one comment that Councilmember Kennedy brought up. And Brian, if you can stay here for 2 seconds. The comment, I think, was something along, I think it was insider trading. And I wanted to just address that for 2 seconds because it sounds like a pretty nasty term and has some pretty negative connotations. And I think it was in alluding to potential for speculation amongst land owners or buyers. But I think it's important to note, and Brian can elaborate on this a little bit, the design and the design process altogether is a very public process, starting with the environmental process and, of course, looking at multiple types of alignments before actually setting an alignment. So perhaps you can talk about kind of the history that involved maybe the different alignments that were studied in public settings, then ultimately, the decision leading up to preferred alignment, and then eventually getting us to where we're at when that alignment is set, then acquiring the properties. Because I think the important thing is, from start to finish, it's a very publicly disclosed process, and I wanted to make that clear so that the public wasn't of the mind that there's something kind of underhanded going on as we undertake these acquisitions. So can you expand on that, Brian?
Yes, the preparation of the environmental document was a public process and involved preliminary designs, and as far as the part in Victorville, the alignment of the Green Tree part between Hesperia Road and Ridgecrest Road had two variations. One variation was slightly south of the existing one, not a large difference, but it went straighter along a section line. It still had the curve. It still looked similar, but the major difference is there are some existing homes along Code Road, and so the preferred alignment was shifted north to avoid impacts to those homes, so we wouldn't have to remove any homes, we wouldn't have to relocate any people. We would only need small strips of easements. That was the major difference, but that was a public process through public hearings, public meetings. It involved Victorville residents, and ultimately the environmental document was approved in 2011, and then after that we went into the right-of-way phase, years later. And then that's also public in the sense that the property owner has to be notified that there's going to be an appraisal. They have a chance to meet with the appraiser. They get a chance to review the appraisal, and that's also public in the sense that it's a full disclosure of what we're doing.
I don't even want to suggest there's anything wrong with speculating. My wife and I own some property that will never be developed in our lifetime in the desert, but we bought it speculating that our kids might benefit from it. So who can say? I'm not opposed to that. It's just the name of that LLC, the name of that buyer just kind of made me wonder.
It rubs us too, and it bothers us when we go through this public process because there likely are speculators out there doing just that.
Satisfied with the process.
Anyone else? Thank you. At this time, I do have one speaker card. I'm not sure if it's Christine or Christian Blakely.
It's Christine. My name is Christine Blakely. I just have a couple of questions, and they may be for him. On that Green Tree extension project, I just have a few questions. Where exactly does that project start from as far as widening the street? Is it starting from 3rd Avenue and going down, or is it starting exactly at Hesperia Road in Nisqually? I'm curious to know. Is it a grant project, or is the city paying for it? Do you already have the funds for it? Have you already started the project yet? And like she said, how long are you estimating that project to last? Because I know that the Nisqually project took about 42 years, starting from buying the property and to finish.
If I might answer the questions, the scope of the project largely is starting at the intersection of Green Tree and Hesperia Road. So this scope is not dealing with anything westerly of that intersection, which is kind of up the hill and going towards, I think you said 3rd. So it's really dealing with the intersection of Green Tree, Hesperia Road easterly towards Yates Road over the railroad tracks.
Okay.
And basically kind of starting where that hill is and traversing south of the hill, but easterly towards Yates Road.
And where's the funding for this coming from?
So we're right now in the right-of-way acquisition phase, and that's from federal grant funding that's administered through CTC, which is the County Transportation Commission. The construction funding is planned to be received through CTC as well, with a local match. About 49% of the funds have to be matched locally. The funding source for this kind of program is typically what we call development impact fees. That would be our local match, and we would match that with transportation dollars from CTC.
Okay, thank you.
That was the only card that I had. Therefore, I need a motion in a second.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D4, agreement for design of water main for Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council approve a consultant professional services provider agreement in an amount not to exceed $75,620 with Dokken Engineering for the design of a water main within the Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project.
Thank you. Any questions of staff from council members?
Yes, how long has the Duncan consulting firm been on the project for now? And since this project is in collaboration with in-house staff, what role does staff have?
Excuse me. I'm not going to remember exactly when we first hired Dokken. If I remember right, I think they've been working on the design for approximately 3 years. And what was your next question?
Well, the reason I even asked the consulting is I want to make sure that if we haven't had that relationship for like a decade and we're making sure we're following equitable process. So that's why I'm asking. So if it hasn't been too long, that's the reason for that question. The next question was, since in-house staff is going to be in collaboration with the consulting firm, what was staff's role with the consulting firm going to be?
In regards to this water line in particular, or for the whole project?
No, just in particular for this agenda item.
Okay, so we identified a need to install water line in the alignment because we're nearing the completion of a water master plan update, and that was identified as a need for the system to increase the reliability of the supply in that area, because the nearest crossing of the BNSF Railroad is about a mile to the south. And so it made a lot of sense to have this main to complete a loop to serve that part of the city. So we wanted to incorporate that into the Green Tree Extension project, and it made a lot of sense to use the same design firm that has already designed the road and has all the plans and the utilities to also design that water line. We could have gone out with a request for proposal from other companies, but we didn't think that'd make a whole lot of sense because they didn't have all the design information, and we thought it would be more efficient to use the same company to design the water line.
No further questions.
Thank you. At this time, I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I need a motion in a second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Cox. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to D5, Agreement for Building and Public Works Inspection Services. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council and Board of Directors appropriate additional funds from Fund 250, Measure I, in the amount of $25,000, from Fund 410, Water, in the amount of $112,500, and from Fund 425, Sewer, in the amount of $112,500, and approve a consultant professional services provider agreement for building and public works inspection services for an amount not to exceed $400,000.
Thank you. Questions of staff from council members? Anyone?
Yeah, for item D5 and any particular items that staff has privy to, it's the same thing. So I've requested this in the past, but I'm going to do it now publicly since it's not been adhered to. So I'm hoping now it's going to be adhered if it's on the record. So please add Councilmember Gomez to any notification lists that have information on it. And please make sure you add it as a council calendar so I can either accept or reject the invitation. That really helps me as a council member. I know we're all very busy. And so as a public outcry, please add me. That's also for the NSP and any other information.
Else? At this time, I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I'm requesting a motion in a second.
Item D5.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D6, award of contract to CXT Incorporated for prefabricated restrooms at Doris Davis Park. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council approve the purchase, construction, and installation of 2 prefabricated restrooms for Doris Davies Park in the amount not to exceed $217,000.
Thank you. Questions of staff by council members?
Yes, I'd like to know, with the addition of the bathrooms, was that because of the design of the skate park, or was that just because the population of that particular park required an extra 2 bathrooms?
The recommendation for bathrooms, and particularly an extra bathroom, was identified through our survey that certainly we would need one to accommodate the skateboard park, but just looking at the functional layout, especially including the wash that runs through, it seemed that the park would benefit from having an additional one, so as to avoid any potential physical barriers of being able to get across the wash from say the basketball courts to the skateboard park bathroom.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anyone else? I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I need a motion in a second.
Madam Mayor, move approval of the item D6.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Cox. Any further questions or comments?
So for clarification, we're approving the purchase, the construction, and installation of 2 prefabricated restrooms for Davis Doris Park in the amount not to exceed $217,000, right?
That's my understanding.
If that wasn't a motion, I'd like to have it clarified, but if it is, I thank you for that clarification.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D7, designation of U.S. Route 66 as a National Historic Trail. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council adopt Resolution Number 18-072, thereby supporting the designation of Route 66 as a National Historic Trail.
Thank you. Questions of staff by council members?
Yes, looking into the benefits and the impacts, I want to know what those impacts and benefits are. I was out in the community and I was told by a couple of community members the glee for having something of this nature, but then I also heard a couple of concerns, so I'd like to bring them up to this forum. One of the concerns that I heard, if it becomes a historical type of venue that we're going to be looking at this moment, is the city would not have any way of altering anything that is currently at the way it looks. In other words, you can't go ahead and try to enhance anything in that area. It's going to really just stay the way it is, but you're going to increase, of course, its value through maintaining the antiqueness. So I'm looking for the benefits, the impacts of doing this resolution, how it would look like.
Mayor and council, there was actually a frequently asked questions item attached to the staff report that might help. If I can get the names of those individuals who had concerns, I could help answer some of them.
Well, some of them are here today, so
Okay.
they'll probably be getting that.
But very generally, when the request was received by staff from the California Historic Route 66 Association, the item was taken before the Planning Commission, and staff did look into benefits versus potential issues for any property owners along Route 66 if such designation is given. And so in doing so, we looked at things people had concerns about, whether or not their property could be under additional restrictions or maybe be subject to eminent domain, and we didn't find anything in any of the information that actually had negative impacts. To the contrary, it would appear that this designation may actually open up some funding for different property owners and commercial property owners. The assessor's presentation of the history of the Old Town area and Route 66 was particularly timely, because you can see that all along the Old Town area, and the commercial sector particularly, it is along Route 66. So it kind of showed that, and this designation may actually help those who own property in the area actually benefit from some grants, etc. So we actually think it will enhance the area. If there's any further information requested, I do believe we have a representative from the California Historic Route 66 Association who would love to answer any questions, as they would really like to gather the city's support, just as they got the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Isn't it up for a vote today anyways? I mean, what, do we have an extension of time to ask? I mean, I don't know.
The person is here.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Ms. Lynn Miller.
Well,
if you'd
I
like
guess
to hear from
my
her.
question would be the same as the concern of some of the citizens, some of the benefits and some of the impacts, and having to actually not alter that space of time, and then how would it impact in the future if the city actually has property there and they would want to redevelop and sell it to, I don't know, sell it out?
Well, first of all, let me just introduce myself. Mayor Garcia and members of the City Council, I'm Lynn Miller, and I'm with the California Historic Route 66 Association. And my colleague here, Delvin Harbor, is our vice president that handles the eastern portion of Route 66, and he is a Victorville resident. What we are doing in California is joining with the other 7 Route 66 states in trying to have all of Route 66, all 2,448 miles of it, declared a National Historic Trail. Now, currently, California does have a designation that US 66 in California is a historic highway. And the designation that we're looking at now is really a recognition of the historical significance of Route 66. If you read the legislation that is currently in the U.S. Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, it's a very short bill. It does not have any wording at all that precludes any type of restrictions on design change. It's really something that we're looking to accomplish for several different reasons. Deputy City Manager Smith mentioned the opportunity for funding. Currently, there is, under the National Park Service, the Route 66 Corridor Preservation Program. But that is sunsetting, and so that basically means it will dry up any opportunity for funding. We believe that if we have a designation as a National Historic Trail, this gives it a federal prominence, and it does allow us to compete for other types of funding to enhance properties and maintain those historic values. So I have been very involved in this since the beginning. I've read the legislation. I've participated in a caravan that just took place. Delvin was with us in several different events to look for support. We have gathered over 61,000 signatures nationwide, and we hope that the council will look on this favorably. We see it has some real economic development boost. And we know that people come to Victorville because Victorville is a great Route 66 town. And we have a wonderful museum there. We have some great eating establishments on Route 66. And those travelers make a positive economic impact to the city. And this will be a way just to reinforce that and to give us more national level prominence.
I have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
Since you said we're potentially under the line with these fundings being sunsetted, if this were to be approved today and then staff could also chime in on this, would we be able to still apply for those fundings? I don't know the procedures in terms of 30 to 60 days, the first, second reading, when this comes into play, and then so forth and so forth.
Under the current legislation, the Route 66 Corridor Preservation Program, once a year they have a cost share opportunity to apply for grants. And there have been several of them in the San Bernardino area that have been funded over the years. So we don't have any currently available funding source. If we receive the designation for all of Route 66 to be a National Historic Trail, then through the appropriations level of the federal government, the National Park Service, who would be in charge of this, would ask for an appropriation that they could then ask for grant share opportunities. So we're not anywhere near that at this point. And I have to tell you, we are always looking for opportunities to fund activities along Route 66. So we don't have any current available funding at this point.
Thank you. And for staff, is this a part of the Old Town specific plan? Or is it separate?
This is a separate item, but the embracing the Route 66 heritage is something that we have drafted into the Old Town specific plan revision that we're working on.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Great. Thank you.
Just a comment.
Oh, yes.
My wife and I are big supporters of the Park Service. We've been to, I think, 155 national parks, trails, seashores.
Mm-hmm.
This designation is a wonderful benefit to the community. A lot of national parks don't benefit communities because they're so remote wildernesses that there's nobody close by. But pretty much wherever they impact a community, it's always positive. So I think this is a great idea.
And I might also mention that we have given the city clerk a little information packet about our organization. So if any of you have questions or comments about Route 66, we would love to chat with you because we're all very passionate about saving our historic highway.
Madam Mayor.
I move that the City Council adopt Resolution number 18-072, thereby supporting the designation of Route 66 as a National Historic Trail.
I still have to continue here. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, Madam Mayor, thank you. Some quick comments. First of all, welcome to our folks from Route 66. The great thing about this is that we are always looking for partnerships and relationships. And if there is a concern that Victorville doesn't support Route 66, that's just not accurate. I'm a big fan of Route 66. And when you're dealing with federal agencies, county, city, not all the time we find ourselves working in the same direction. But I think this is a great opportunity to collaborate and see where we can work together with the property owners and the Park Service and our city, of course. But there's a lot of moving parts because now you've got different processes. They have their processes, we have ours, and the county has theirs. And as you know, county has a lot of Route 66 going through it. And then maintenance is a big issue for Park Service, no matter what you're talking about, because they have a tremendous inventory of properties that they manage. But anyway, having said that, it is a great day to be able to do this and move this forward, and I'm looking forward to the outcome of this and make sure we get this designation, and then I plan to follow this very closely to make sure that we're successful because we can't do it alone.
Anyone else? I do have a card, and of course it's Lynn Miller and Delvin Harbor. Did you have something else you wanted to add on? No? Okay, thank you. Now I call for a motion in a second.
Second.
As a point of order, I've already motioned it.
It was out of order.
It was still motioned, unless he wants to do a substitute motion.
Did you make that motion?
Yes, I did, sir.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gomez, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments?
Yes, just briefly. Thank you for the gift.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to D8. Interlocal agreement concerning the distribution of 2018 Justice Assistance Grant JAG Award. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council adopt Resolution number 18-076 and ratify the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Victorville and the County of San Bernardino to accept the 2018 JAG Award, ratify the expenditure plan for the JAG allocation, and authorize the city manager or his designee to process all documents required for this program.
Thank you. Questions of staff by council members?
Yes, so I'm going to contextualize this before my question comes, but on March 24th, 2018, one of our Victorville Sheriff Deputy officers happened to go over a curve in somewhere along Old Town Victorville, and I received that and got pictures and the skit and all this, and the lady was pretty upset that her tree, her beautiful tree had fallen. So on June 7th, she wrote a complaint to the county. So I'm believing that hopefully it's going to be addressed within 45 days from then. So when I looked at this memorandum of understanding and monies, I think it's $50,000 for overtime. I mean, now my question that I've contextualized it, does that cover those types of incidents that happen, or is that just totally different?
You'll have to, sorry. Councilwoman, you have to, in reference to that type of incident, I don't know specifically incident you're talking about.
Right.
Probably because I didn't start my assignment here until the 31st of March. So I wasn't here at that time, but I don't know about a tree incident.
You don't know about what? I'm sorry.
You said, you mentioned a tree falling?
Yeah, it was one of the police officers' vehicles when he was probably doing some kind of speed chase, went over on, I mean, like I said, I was just contextualizing it because I want to know the incidents of this nature when something happens. I mean, who becomes responsible? The city, and if it's not the city, but it's instead the county, is the county, through this type of funding, the grant, is that going to cover items of that nature? So this is me going into more of the detail versus, well, this is more generic as a program.
Okay. That actually is a separate, complete incident. If someone has a claim by a deputy sheriff hitting a fence, a tree, whatever the case may be, if they have a claim, they submit a claim to the county. The county will then handle that claim however they feel appropriate, depending on the circumstances. This grant has nothing to do with that side of the house.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? I do not have any speaker cards, therefore I need a motion and a second.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D9, amendment to Old Town Street Light Improvement Project. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council adopt resolution number 18-077 to amend the budget and appropriate an additional $395,000 from Fund 200 street lighting and add the Old Town Street Lighting Improvement Project to the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget in the Capital Improvement Program.
Thank you. Questions of staff by council members?
Yes, so I found out that we have $2.1 million as of 2013 till now, and $400,000 of that's going to be spent in Old Town. So I was questioning the process as to what is it procedurally or the administrative processes that the city of Victorville takes into place before adopting or modifying our CIP program. I know this would be considered a project, a capital project improvement, not an improvement, sorry, but just a capital project. But my understanding was before, and you can clarify if this is not right, but if we have a CIP, we have priorities. And with those priorities, we address them as need come to be. It's my assumption now that because this is not a part of the CIP, what has made this one of the 5-10 priorities from our CIP, if our CIP is annually or every 5th year modified? Can you be able to explain some of those? I'm still fogged up on what this all is.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, this item was discussed specific to answer these questions at the last council meeting. But for the benefit of the audience, I think it is fair to go ahead and answer them again. And at the last council meeting, that's how this item originated. We were dealing with what we call a SLAD. It's an acronym for Street Lighting Assessment District, and that was an assessment that was passed back in 2013. It effectively became $13.97 parcel tax paid by the residents and owners of property here in Victorville, and effectively the funds are used for the operations and maintenance of both the street lighting system and the traffic signal system. Included within that funding source is money for operating reserves and capital reserves. The capital reserve is effectively the funding source that we're speaking to here, or that $2.1 million Councilmember Blanca Gomez spoke to. But also as a part of that approval, revalidation at the last council meeting, because we've got an established capital reserve, we identified, based upon feedback from the community, a desire or a possibility for this council to consider taking on an additional capital project. Currently, among the CIP, which is a capital improvement program for the city, and a large funding plan for the next 5 years for all of our public infrastructure. Among that, we don't have a formal capital improvement program for the street lighting system. So with council's desire to move forward and proceed in at least addressing the one initial project in Old Town as a priority, it also directed staff to come back through the budgeting process and start doing a citywide evaluation of the rest of the city to determine where are the rest of the priorities. So effectively formalizing a much broader capital improvement program beyond what we're taking here. But because of council's desire to pursue a street lighting project in Old Town, the requisite approval before proceeding is to actually create the appropriation and amend the CIP to include this as a project.
So I was afraid that you would respond in the manner that you did, and I'd like to make it public that we are in election season. November 6th, we have upcoming elections. This project is barely coming into fruition by bringing it forth just last week, asking for this item to be brought forth with a study. I know Mr. Councilmember Negrete just met at Richard Billard's. I know he's up for election, and Kennedy decided he wouldn't run an election this time. So I'm afraid that sometimes when we're political figures, we end up using certain materials from the city to expend rather than making it something a priority and adding it to our CIP process. And I wanted to make sure that was a part of the public comment, because during election season, you will see a lot of basically buying off of votes. And as a council member, I think that's very, very difficult for the people who are running as a candidate in an election year. I know since 1998, the Old Town has expressed on numerous occasions their desires of having security, safety, and lighting. And so my reason for saying this now is because as an insider, I'm beginning to piece a lot of stuff together. And I always want to make sure as a transparent city that, like Mr. Kennedy had said, it bothers me that I have this information and it could be insider or trader information. Well, the same thing I would say, this particular move to add something to modify it at the last minute, to me, seems to be something very effectuate to that matter. And I wish that it would have been added to the CIP, and then as a project, we could move it up the ladder, but not to make it a political strategy to make sure that we get people to get back in election. And that really does bother me. I was talking to a constituent, and like he said, we've been working on this for many, many, many years, Blanca. And I agree. I went down to Old Town and I saw 6 lights. I don't know if those lights at night function or not. I have heard that they do not. And these 6 lights that are there, I asked the city manager, what will we be doing since they're not the city's? But he said those are the streets are the city's, but not Edison. So I'm a little bit concerned with the future of what that may look like. So if you'd like to kind of chime in, I'm not saying I don't want Old Town. I'm not saying that. So please do not confuse what you have heard, because the narrative will later on be, well, Blanca doesn't want Old Town lighting, and that's not the case. I'm just questioning the process. That is all I'm doing. I'm not, please. So don't look at what I'm saying as I'm attacking Old Town for any reason. I know Old Town has had special regard with our staff being there, so I'm going to ask staff to please provide me the amount of time that they have spent with the organization. I know I have had staff on occasion, I've asked staff to please come to other groups, and I don't want the community to look at staff choosing a particular group to side with, because we have over 130,000 individuals, and this is for a citywide equitable plan that we want to look for. We had Mrs. Robinson read a letter just last time where we had 2 murders in an area where it's very, very dark. So I just don't want people to be stepping on other people, especially on election time.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, your staff takes listening to the community very seriously, and at least in this particular case, we've been listening to representatives from the Old Town community. Actually, it's been something that I've been listening to for my 20 plus years here with the city, but certainly with the Root organization, they've definitely had some good momentum in bringing greater awareness to us as staff as to some of the issues that they're facing down there. And sadly, we cannot resolve them all, but we're doing our best to address them one by one. And as it relates to this particular item, the item really is before you, and the suggestion came before you at the last council meeting, really in response to our hearing their complaint. And one of their big issues that we're hearing in the Old Town area does involve lighting. So listening to your constituents and bringing that back as a suggestion, and you as a council agreeing to move forward to this point is really reactionary to the public process. So really, I think the options for you as a council are, if you think it's for political reasons and don't support it, I can tell you as staff, our role is not to get involved in politics. It's to listen to your constituents. It's also to listen to you as policy makers and bring recommendations forward that are in the best interest of the city. This item is believed to be one of those, but certainly as a policy perspective, if you believe differently, then you can actually direct staff to pursue different options.
Madam Mayor, I have a couple of comments. First of all, the idea that this was somehow related to my reelection is laughable, but that's what we get here. So sometimes I don't even know if I should even really say anything, but whatever. This issue, like everything else we do here, is the business of the city of Victorville. And we have a lot of challenges to get on and work through, and so we made a lot of progress with the piping replacement and Old Town, and the Old Town folks let us know that they were really grateful for some of the improvements that have long been planned. Streetlights in the city of Victorville are a big issue because sometimes we own them, sometimes Edison owns them. If you have a streetlight issue, contact us at the city. That is one of the most easiest things that I've ever had to deal with, because when a neighbor of mine had an issue, we looked into it, and it wasn't just a light bulb. That whole cul-de-sac had to be shut down because of there's some wiring problem. They had to take the power off for a little bit. But it got fixed. And so a lot of times people think, we don't care, we don't, well, it's kind of hard if we don't know about the issue. So we always encourage people to get with the city staff and come to us with that. But those are one of the most easiest issues that I've come across. Same thing with potholes. Sometimes they seem to be easier, but a lot of times the city has a stigma, or people think of the city staff a certain way, but what they don't realize is that we got a lot of great people at the city of Victorville, and we got a lot of great resources and programs for the residents of the city of Victorville. So a lot of times, don't think you're on your own. Ask questions. That's what we're here for. So if there's no further comment, I move approval of D9.
Well, I have some cards here yet, so I will continue here. Anyone else have any questions of staff? Okay, I will continue with speaker cards. The first one is Barbara Powers. After Barbara will be Valentin Godina.
Well, good evening, Council. I'm Barbara Powers, and I've been volunteering about 7 years on 7th Street, Old Town in Victorville. Also, I am with the Root program. Lately, I've seen cooperation in the city. Officials come to Root meetings. We appreciate the changes, like the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit on 7th Street. And I wish more new people would look at that. for the 30 miles per hour, and the bush trimming, and the city attendance at the monthly business owners meeting on the third Wednesday of each month at the community center on 6th and D. One of the first safety items for Old Town is the lighting system. We are asking members of the city council for passage of the line item listed for Victorville Old Town. Many break-in crimes, especially on 7th Street, are committed when it's late and when it's dark. Lights make a large difference for the story, especially when it comes to winter and the time gets darker. Especially now for the new battery store that we have, the furniture store, and the thrift store on 7th and C. Thank you for your consideration, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Barbara. Valentin?
Good afternoon, City Council. First, I'd like to refer to a rule of Rosenberg Rules of Order, courtesy and decorum. The rules of order are meant to create an atmosphere where the members of the body and the members of the public can attend business efficiently, fairly, and with participation at the same time, respect. I bring that up because I feel disrespected when I come to City Council and I see signs accusing me of being a criminal when they have no idea who I am just because I am Hispanic. That is a lack of courtesy and decorum, and I'd like to see that addressed, that this kind of political statements are not political free speech statements. They are meant to entice people and keep people of minority culture away from these meetings, and that is totally inappropriate and a lack of courtesy and decorum. I don't know how much more I can prove that I am a honest, hardworking American of Mexican descent. My 12 children grew up in Victorville. They went through the schools here. 6 of them participated in the military and are currently petty officers. How much more do I have to do to have people stop thinking of me as a criminal? I'm not a criminal. Now, as far as the Route 66, I was with Route. I've seen all the work that they've done. I've seen Mr. Negrete at the meeting, and unfortunately, that's the way our system works. Our system works in a way that there has to be some sort of an emergency to have our council members or the community come together and get an action passed. It so happens that it's coming to light during an election time, and as far as the citizens of Old Town or downtown are concerned, we're just happy that it's coming to light, and we're going to get this project moving. And for that, I thank you.
Christine Quick, and after Christine, Jennifer Neri.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Christine Quick, and I'm very glad for your continued support. Dark is scary, and it does get really, really dark out there in Old Town near B and 7th Street. It gets very dark and very scary, and your help and the financial support is deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer Neri, and after Jennifer, Robert Arvizu.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Jennifer Neri, and I am a resident of Old Town Victorville and also a member of Revive Our Old Town Route. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the residents of Old Town to ensure that our concerns are heard and not ignored. Root consists of residents, business owners, and community members who have come together to strategize on how we can better our community and make it a safer area for all. We have held numerous forums, and at each and every forum, residents have expressed their concerns about the lack of lighting in and around our neighborhoods. We all feel that this is one of the main contributing factors to our safety. The past Saturday, we had our Movies in the Park event at Eva Del Park. When the sun went down, it was completely pitch dark. I have pictures too. And there was very little sufficient lighting. If there were more lights in our parks, we believe that there wouldn't be so many vagrants and criminal activity going on. The darkness gives criminals a haven for illegal behavior and keeps families from enjoying our city parks. And says, please do not delay our lights any longer. Our safety and our quality of life is at risk. And then I have some pictures to show you of, okay, these are the pictures from my street. It's just Fresno and Forest. And this first one is the one on Fresno Street. This one is the one on Don Court, and this is on Forest. See how dark it is? And these are the pictures from this Saturday event, which is, you can see our screen, the blow-up screen, everyone, how it's like, it's what lit up the park. And then, and all the other pictures are just the surrounding areas of that park. I mean, once the blow-up screen went out, you could not even barely see your hand in front of your face. So, wish it could have been more flat, but if you, and then this is also a bubble diagram of, from one of our forums, and how, you know, safety is the main goal, and then lights is right here on one of them, as the contributing factors to our safety, which also, because of that, is
Sorry,
dark
could you
parks.
speak into the mic, please?
Dark parks and alleys, squatting and defecation behind 7th Street, and dim or obstructed lights at parks and schools, and then also the broken lights. And then that's end. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Arvizo. After Robert, Carla Portillo.
Council, my name is Robert Arvizu, a resident of Victor Valley for over 30 years and an active member of ROOT. ROOT stands for Revive Our Old Town.
Can you lift the microphone up?
Revive Our Old Town. And that's our town, our town. Okay, the first thing that ROOT did was surveyed the residents of Victorville. And the main concern, besides a lot of them, was safety, the safety issues. And one thing within the safety issue was lighting, was one of the main issues of the safety issue. We'd like to thank the city, especially the captain and Sophie here for being involved, Mr. Negretti, being involved in Old Town, visiting, being active and listening to the people of Victorville, of Old Town, Victorville. We appreciate your help, and we continue to ask you to continue to help us. And one of the things is the lighting. Okay, the people of Victorville in Old Town want the lighting. That's the people's voice. We want the lighting. Let's make this happen, city.
Thank you. After Carla, Christine Snarky.
Good evening, Mayor and all other council members. My name is Carla Portillo, and I'm here to testify on putting more street lights throughout Old Town Victorville, because there isn't that many lights in Old Town to make it safe for anybody. Like the light on my street, which is Forest Avenue, flickers on and off, and when it's off, it's really dark and hard to see. Thank you.
Thank you. After Christine, Jennifer Neri. Oh, you had two cards? Oh, okay. Christine Snarky. Dominic Molina.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, and City Council. My name is Dominic Molina, and I am here tonight to speak on behalf of my Fresno Street neighborhood in Old Town Victorville. We want new and improved lighting in our street because there aren't very many lights on my street, and ones that are there are very dim or blocked by overgrown trees. And sometimes they blink and turn off, and they don't turn back on for right away. Because of the lack of lights on my street, cars are unable to see when someone or something is crossing the street. My neighbor's dog got hit and killed last week, and this makes us feel unsafe in our neighborhood. Please help us, the resident of Old Town, feel safer by granting us more lights for our streets and our parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were all the cards that I had on this item. Can we have a motion and a second?
I have a motion by Mr. Negretti.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
I have a comment. So that Fresno and Forest, is that also a part of this actual outline right here? I see the Forest Avenue, but I see limited between certain streets. Are we including Fresno and Forest?
The proposed, it's on page 2 of the staff report, the proposed improvements include the area from D Street to Forest Avenue and from 6th Street to 8th Street, D Street between 4th and 8th, and improvements will be included for certain intersections such as A Street at 3rd Street and 4th Street.
My question still stands. Is Fresno and Forest a part of it?
No, not specifically, but we can look at additional intersections.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure because someone was speaking on that, and I'm sure she thought that was a part of the inclusion. And I was looking at the map, and I didn't really see it, so I wanted to make sure that she knew if it was going to be included or not, but it doesn't look like it is at the moment. Just making this for clarification. And I know if we already voted, would you mind asking the question again?
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to item D10. Discussion regarding taking a public position of disapproval against behavior of Council Member Gomez. Madam, I'll read the recommendation. Any action is at the discretion of the City Council.
Well, Madam Mayor, I asked to put this on the agenda, so I'll start with a few comments. The only thing I'd ask is whether you like what I say or not, whether you agree with me or not, please don't interrupt. If you don't interrupt me, I won't interrupt you. We'll all be courteous to one another. I don't want to rehash the details of Ms. Gomez's behavior that's already been covered in the newspapers. The Sanctuary City incident, the Warming Center incident, the Russ Blewett funeral incident, the arrest at Hesperia City Hall. We've already read enough in the local papers about these. I want to talk about the incidents that have occurred in Victorville, mostly in City Hall, that we have not publicized in the press. In March, Ms. Gomez had what could only be called a fairly hysterical outburst during closed session. She screamed at the mayor, at Mr. Negretti, and at me. It reached such a level of hostility that the city manager called 2 sheriff deputies in to keep the peace. After that meeting, she conducted unauthorized tours of City Hall, which violated the penal code and required the city manager to post no trespassing signs throughout the building. First time ever. Also in March, she caused a security breach at SCLA when she escorted 2 men through an alarmed door into the secure airfield. The doors were clearly marked to prevent unauthorized entry, which she ignored and which again violated the penal code. In April, she violated attorney-client privilege when she received an email from the city attorney that was sent to all council members about a closed session discussion involving some ongoing litigation. She then sent a copy of that email to the opposing party in the litigation. This was not only a serious violation of attorney-client privilege and a blatant violation of the Brown Act, but this action violated the interests of every citizen of this community who we are expected to represent. In May, the council realized that her travel spending was so excessive that we now require that all travel spending by council members be approved by the full council. In July, she attempted to remove a document from City Hall that had not been finalized or approved for release by the city manager. As she was leaving, she was stopped by an employee and instructed to not leave with the document. She became hostile and confrontational with employees. However, the employees prevailed and she did not leave with the document. But the next week, she sent an email threatening to sue the city manager and 2 employees. On July 30, after a discussion with the city's personnel attorney, the city manager then ordered that all communication between Ms. Gomez and city staff must cease, and that all communication from her must go through him. She has ignored that order pretty consistently since it was made. She's made voluminous requests of our city manager and staff to provide her with information. She's made extensive requests of the city attorney to provide information, and the city's paid for these legal services. The result of all these information requests has been 0. Ms. Gomez has never come to the council and said, look, I requested this information, here's what I found, and now we should do something. Never. Not once. The vast amount of information provided to Ms. Gomez has produced nothing that we know of. We don't know what she's doing with it, but we know what she's not doing. She's not bringing it to the council as evidence of anything, good, bad, or otherwise. She makes outrageous statements on Facebook about everything this council is doing wrong, but she can't support any of it with a shred of evidence. She claims to serve the underserved, but she's never told us exactly who those people are or how the rest of this council is ignoring whoever they are. She claims to oppose the status quo, but has never said exactly what is the status quo, what's wrong with it, and exactly, she's never told us exactly what she wants to change, other than wanting to throw out every other member of this council. But here's the simple truth. There's only one person on this council who is here for personal gain and personal promotion, and that's Ms. Gomez. So, for this litany, laundry list of reasons, I will make a motion that the Victorville City Council issue a public statement that we disapprove of Ms. Gomez's offensive public behavior and inappropriate actions as a member of this council. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I think we're still going through comments.
Second.
I'm done.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments?
I do
Yeah.
have speaker cards.
We have cards.
The city council has discussed many items in regard to what is it we're doing wrong. I have said many times, if anyone has any evidence of wrongdoing, there are agencies above this that those items should be reported to. We have a grand jury, we have a district attorney, we have state agencies. I will be more than happy to provide the addresses or take the individuals there. We have a council, and I believe all the council people are proud of the city. We do not need division. I don't know if people really realize when we have division how much it hurts, because we're trying to have a community that we're all proud of. We're trying to have a safe community. We're trying to convince people to move here, start jobs, start businesses, create jobs. And I don't know of anyone who's not really proud of the community. And the worst thing that can happen is this divisiveness. And I don't know why anybody would want to divide the community. But that appears to be the goal, and I hope everyone will take a step back and look at why we want to be divided. If we're doing something wrong, you have proof, report it. Call the police chief, call anyone. But don't make vague innuendos when you have no proof. That hurts the individuals that are elected and appointed to do the job. It hurts the individuals that support those individuals, and it keeps us from doing the job. I have no idea why people would make those allegations, but there must be a purpose, but I can't figure out. It's not good for the community. One of the things that the council discussed was a censure, and I want to explain that a censure does nothing. I also want to point out that if any individual is censured, it doesn't mean anything. The individuals can ignore it. If I was censured because I did something wrong, I would be embarrassed. I hope I never reach that point. I would hope that we would never reach a point where the city council could take an action. But we have 5 members on the council. We act as a team. When we disagree, we have discussions with our manager or attorney, but we generally don't air our dirty laundry in public any more than you do that with your family. We are family, including the 500 employees that we have and the contracts with the Sheriff's Department, the business people who cooperate, and ad infinitum. So while we're trying to put this together, we have the innuendos that something is really wrong, that there's some crooks or there's inside trading. For heaven's sakes, if anyone has any information that there's a shred of truth to that, report it to someone. Otherwise, try to find a way to work with the city, work with your neighbors, work with your family, and bring this city back together and try to make this city a great city again. Be proud of the city that you live in. Support the city that you live in. It serves no one, well, it may individually serve individuals if that's their goal, to divide this community. Now, each of these council members have roles that we play. We get appointed to boards and commissions, and from the state all down to the Mountain Desert Division. But you don't get an appointment if you're working against the city. And I know Ms. Gomez is hurt because she isn't appointed to any of those. But, well, she's appointed to outside agencies, not from the city. But if you work together and bring problems to the city and we discuss it, there's a role for everyone. And each of the members can make a great contribution. In regard to not representing the city, we have gone on record as a council time and time again. And this started when Ms. Gomez went to, I believe the city was Rialto, wore the badge and indicated that she, well, it was reported to us that she was there on official business. The official position of the city is what 3 councilmen say it is. Whether we like it or not, that's the official position of the city. In the absence of an official city, it's the role of the mayor or the mayor pro tem to express the position of the city, and we hold them accountable for that. And so if you want to represent the city, you have to be a part of the group, join in the conversation, work out an agreement, and then the position of the city is the official position. If you disagree with it, you're acting as an individual. Any council member can act as an individual. I am opposed to a censure for a council member, but I'm absolutely for going on record to say when a council person is representing the city and when they're representing themselves. I hope the public can see that distinction. It's an extremely important distinction. I hope the public can understand how important it is that we have a cohesive, united citizens to keep this community safe, that we try to build jobs, and we make people proud of the community. And each one of us have a great contribution, and we need to commit to do that. Please think about that, because it's desperately needed. Divisiveness hurts everyone, and we all will suffer for it.
Yes. So I was not on city business because I had my actual badge on. So that's a lie, Mr. Cox. The other thing is, when it comes with the executive staff, I'm sorry, but just yesterday, 2 out of the 3 staff members were so belligerent. And I have actually witnesses now. So I was starting to bring individuals to come to my Monday meetings, and I had finally 2. It grew from 1 to 2 from 1 to 2 individuals. And I was aghast at how before these individuals had come, there was it was like an argument. I'm trying to understand the processes with their legalese and technical language. And it was just like talking to little kids. I'm saying, look, I don't understand that language that you're using. Let me try to understand what you're saying, use layman's terms, because I'm going to have to report this out to the people. That wasn't the case. So I have witnesses that were there. So this has gone out of hand for sure. The last thing I wanted to point out was, I know Mrs. Garcia, she has had a lot to do with the lack of decorum. She's the head and the presiding officer, and a lot of the community has seen that, and no one has ever brought her to be censured or anything, and I won't even ask for that because I don't think that's appropriate. I think sometimes we disagree with things, which is fine, and I'm not going to ask for that, but what I'm saying is, let's play even. You don't like something, I don't like something, but don't attack me as a whole, because the community sees, besides those smiles and those rolling eyes, we can see through all the people up here, and that's very evident. So anyway, since the recall efforts, the city executive team, along with council, has made it very difficult for me to access very simple things that I was able to access before, like travel expenses for the executive teams or the department. Any inquiries to staff before were really easy, and now they've made it very difficult, where you pull out my public request. As a person just like you, I'm making those public requests. So when they're saying is exuberant information, it's through Public Request Acts. So if any of you were to make that, they would probably say that you're asking for too much information. As a council member, I'm not allowed to ask for information anymore. As a matter of fact, I had to write a cease and desist order to the attorney and to the city manager. And finally, they acquiesced and started saying, we will produce the information, but it'll take us 3 to 4 weeks. So if you think you have a hard time, I have a hard time too. None of this has been out in the open, and none of you know. But if any of you request all my emails from the moment I became a city council member, you would know that what has been revealed up here. You will see both sides of the story, and you're free to write. None of my information is going to be ever privileged, guaranteed. My information is there. You can ask for it. If you ask me, I'll forward you a couple of items. But if you ask the city manager, I'm sure he'll greatly give you all the mounds of information. I have people working on that. They're asking for all of my emails. And that's going to be very taxing on staff, I understand. So I'm going to continue on. Since this recall, we have people who are part of the Mojave Water Board Agency, board members, flying that in the beginning. Thank you for raising your hand. I'm sure a lot of my constituents would like to know who you are. His name is Thurston Smith-Smitty from Apple Valley. We have former council member Ryan McCachran, who I unseated. Wonder who wants to do the recall, right? Still a little bit on the loser sore side, unfortunately. The owner of Mac Insurance, by the way, that's who he is, in Victorville. Former council member Terry Caldwell, who was here last time suggesting the resolution that Kennedy said, yes, let's go ahead and do something because Blanca's ruining the city. He's under the recall effort. Michael Stevens, the public information officer. So you want to know who the status quo is? I'm naming some of them right here, right now, not everyone. Carlos Sarmientos from CARS. He's very well known for being a very giving person. He also is on the recall efforts. That's why you see him here with the CEO Chamber of Commerce. He's also behind that, although I haven't seen your name there, but I'm sure you're also very heavily. We give you a lot of money through membership, and I know that's behind there too. That's why you're here today. anytime there's a censure of Blanca or anything, I see your face. The other thing is we have a lot of other individuals who are part of the status quo. And like I said yesterday at 9 in the morning, I had very biased and very disruptive, these two individuals were they produced a lot of animosity. I say 2 of the 3 because I meet with 3. And as a matter of fact, the third one was the one where I was able to say, thank you for being patient with me and for understanding that I do not know the years and years of information that you have had. So I appreciate that from the 2 of the 3 staff members that I sit to do the review for the hour agenda. It was impossible for me to converse. It was more of a battle instead of me trying to understand what the dynamics of some of the agenda items, and in particular, it was actually the agenda item that we passed for the street lights. I wanted to make sure that my vote wasn't just going to be skewed. It was actually me understanding something, and I had a very difficult time in 1 hour's time just to get the simple information. And I've never said this much in public, but I think, it's time for me to say what's happening behind closed doors. And a lot of us don't air our laundry, but a lot of the elected officials want to air my laundry, going to see what's happening with my 23-year-old, posting on the recall. And all of a sudden we have code enforcement where I'm living, and now they're checking into my documents where I have a child that's the age of 9. So I think it's important to know where all this is coming from. A lot of the electeds from a lot of the cities, they have this tri-meeting where the mayor and mayor pro temps meet, and they talk the decisions of the city. So you can begin to put your pieces together. Thank you.
Okay, I will continue
Madam
here.
Hey, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some comments too. So, this is not fun or something that I wish we didn't have to go through, but things have just gotten worse since December 6, 2016. And this is what I was afraid of, quite frankly. When you come into a council and you get newly elected, believe it or not, there's no tutorial, there's no this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. On a one-to-one level, there's League of Cities and other things like that. But really, nobody reached out to me and basically gave me any idea of basically what your left and right limits are, basically how to be the most effective, and that's all I ever wanted to do. So when Councilmember Gomez got elected, we had a 20-minute meeting, December 6, 2016, before our first meeting. And because how I got off to a rocky start with my council, I would say things not in the appropriate way. You're waiting and waiting and waiting for your turn to speak, and then sometimes you don't come off the best way, and you may misstate things, or you'd like to walk it back, but it's too late. You may have offended some folks that you're trying to work with, and so there was a bit of a learning curve there. And so, I hope the great teamwork we've shown. Mayor Pro Tem Cox mentioned it. We are doing the business of the city, but knowing where we are today, I was worried. You don't have to have all the experience in the world to do this, but you do have to know how to work together with other people for mutually beneficial outcomes. And one of my big things was I wanted to find out what Councilmember Gomez's priorities were, and I never got that far. But I did say a few things in the 20 minutes. From my experience, I said, don't just dump stuff on us that nobody's ever heard of before. Socialize your priorities with the city manager. That usually works good. Don't take things personally. We can agree vehemently one day, and the next day we're working on something that benefits everybody in the city. And we are here to serve. And the other thing is that you're only one vote out of 5. So you need 3 votes to get anything done. And I would say that to anybody, because every 2 years, whether it's school boards, water boards, councils, whatever, people get elected, and there's a learning curve of how to be the most effective with your time. And that's really what this all comes down to. We waste so much time from the very beginning. And I was irritated right away because I've got a lot of responsibilities working for Fort Irwin, dealing with real world problems. And I don't deal with this kind of stuff. But I come here, and the loss of decorum is embarrassing. And that's why I don't really argue with Councilmember Gomez because it's not productive for anybody. So it's a waste of time. You're wasting my time. You're wasting city staff time, city attorney, everybody that's here. We're wasting your time right now. And this is embarrassing. So I don't take any joy in saying all this. But I would say if you're not being successful, you can usually look in the mirror and change some things or improve. But after I said, remember, you got to work on persuading 2 other council members to vote for your priorities. It's not enough just to have a vote. And then I was told, well, she came out here in her first meeting and said, I'm not here for 3 votes, I'm here for the people. Well, I don't think it's going too well. And we've tried. This city staff has bent over backwards. Try to work with some. People are difficult. There's difficult people everywhere. But every 2 years, this can happen to any board, any council, any water district. So anyway, I like to apologize one more time to the community of Hesperia. I can't believe what's been happening. Anyway, so, we get asked a lot of times about this, but this is not something I enjoy talking about. But anyway, I just thank Councilmember Kennedy for the motion, and this being on the agenda, it's time for us to do something.
I do have some cards. I will continue with those, and then we will finalize. The first card that I have is Mike Getrick. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it says that. After that will be Vaughn Bacht.
Hello, my name is Mike McGetrick. I've been a homeowner in Victorville for over 10 years. I'm for the censure of Blanca Gomez. I have signed the recall for her. She's an embarrassment to our city. She's incompetent, and I'm trying not, I don't want to be mean, but I think if she wanted to serve the constituency and the city, she should resign. Do the honorable thing, resign. It's everybody's fault but yours. Do the right thing. Do the honorable thing and resign. Thank you.
Now next is Vaughn Bacht.
No. Madam Mayor, I'd ask you to read a statement. No. There's a further divisive attitude to clap and cheer. You can listen and we can be ladies and gentlemen and agree or disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. Please.
After Vaughn will be Leonor.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Vaughn Beck, and I would like to say it would appear that you, Blanca Gomez, are in a dire need of a thorough mental evaluation by a highly qualified professional. Your disrespect of your peers and the citizens of this community and other nearby communities is outrageous. Distraction and disrespect are repugnant and not goals to achieve. You're at the top of the class in that regard. A petulant child spewing out nothing but pure pabulum. Thank you very much.
Leonor. After Leonor, Arthur Schaefer. Okay.
Good evening. I would like the City Council to vote to oppose the council member Blanca Gomez. It's a disgrace for this community. And I'm sorry. This is all. Thank you.
After Arthur, Raul Rodriguez.
My name is Arthur Shopper, a member of We the People Rising. I was a witness of Ms. Gomez in official capacity at the City of Rialto laughing and mocking their covert attempt to turn Rialto into a sanctuary city. I was a witness. There's a wonderful picture of Miss Gomez with the recall effort, covering her mouth like a little child. That was my picture. Miss Gomez, you are a disgrace to this community. You are a disgrace to this state. You are a disgrace to the oath of office that you took. Now, I could say very inflammatory things like she is a Nazi, she's a National Socialist, she wants big government, she wants decentralized power, she has an investment in this ethnic nationalism. I saw her at an event in UC Riverside with brown supremacists like Armando Navarro, who believe that the United States is stolen land and that it should be taken by force. Yes, this happened. And our state Senate president was there too. She was there as a city councilwoman. I find that very offensive. You didn't know about that? Well, now you do. With all due respect to Mr. Cox, the reason there is divisiveness is that there's lawlessness. Ms. Blanca Gomez thinks that there's a set of laws for her and a set of laws for everybody else. And I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. I was a teacher, and when there was a divisive element like a student, I disciplined the student. You have a divisive element on your council. She needs to be disciplined. She needs to be censured. She absolutely needs to be recalled. You don't end divisiveness by ignoring it. You end divisiveness by confronting it. Her agenda goes beyond the borders of this city, meaning that there's no borders for this country. She has been working with disruptive elements in Los Angeles County. I am aware of those, including a gentleman named Eden Enamorado who had called Americans wetbacks. She's part of this agenda. I expect a censure motion. This city deserves it. And I don't care about, well, I feel bad and I don't want to be divisive. You want to unify this community? You hold bad actors accountable. Just as you're shedding light in the Old Town section of Victorville,
30 seconds.
This censure motion sheds light on the real problem. And I feel for the people in Hesperia. I feel for the people in Cudahy. I feel for the people in my community. This is a disgrace. You must censure to make it very clear that this is not yours. This is hers alone. And ma'am, for the record, I have more friends of different colors than you'll ever know. So if you want to play the race card, you look in the mirror. That's where the racist is. Thank you.
Raul Rodriguez and then Robin Hefston.
I'd like to start by reading my sign that says, Gomez is un-American, unpatriotic, and she's a traitor to the American people, to the people of Victorville, and you should be ashamed of yourself for what you're doing. You affiliate yourself with communist organizations like La Raza, Shurla, and the ACLU. Shameful. Shame on you. Shameful individual. You should be ashamed of yourself. Why don't you try resigning? You bring people into this chamber with a Mexican flag. That is so shameful. This is a flag of our country, right here. Yes. That individual back there, if he wants to wear that flag, then take it with you. Go back to Mexico. That's where you belong. Back to Mexico. Take it back with you. We have a Mayor,
okay.
Can you stop my time?
He's speaking.
Stop my time.
I'm warning you.
Look at that.
I'm warning
Look
you.
at that. Shameful.
I'm doing about that.
Okay.
Nice and tall.
Okay, I'm warning you, if you don't settle down, I'll either just cancel the meeting, adjourn the meeting, or call a recess, or we continue on.
Everybody settle down.
How much time do I have?
To everyone. He's a speaker, let him speak. Go ahead.
Once again, if you don't love this country, America, love it or leave it. Take the flag off and put the other flag on, like the American flag. That's what you should be representing. You should be proud of this country, but apparently you're not. So, if you don't want to be proud of this country, then
Sir,
go
if you don't
back
be quiet, I'm warning
to
you.
Mexico or wherever you want to go. Maybe some communist country like Russia, China, Korea. Pick your place. Well, calm down. I'm sick and tired of this individual with her, the way she is treating you up there. You're trying to do the work of the city.
You
and
have 30 seconds.
And she isn't. It's all about her. It's all about her. Whatever she's trying to accomplish, she is so wrong. And you're going to be recalled, and goodbye. Thank you very much. God bless America.
Robin.
My name's Robin Vidston, and I am also with We the People Rising. I first met Councilmember Blanca Gomez at the Rialto City Council meeting. That meeting was illegally held. The councilman, the Rialto councilman, Rafael Trujillo, had actually booked a meeting inside of the city hall to be private. So when we citizens arrived, they locked us out. Blanca Gomez was at the meeting wearing her Victorville City Council official pin. There's a photo of it and videos of it. We were astounded that she showed up from Victorville and was wearing her official pin. So that was our first introduction to her. She made inappropriate videos that day that she put on Facebook, which she subsequently removed. And that is her habit. She is not a professional. She makes videos continually that are not appropriate for a city council member. You've already listed all the various reasons to do this formal disapproval. This city council has been extremely patient for years now with her. And I noticed tonight she slows down the meeting with her questions, and as was said earlier, where do the questions go? She votes for whatever the ordinance is typically, but the meeting gets slowed down, and these questions should be asked outside of the city council meeting because it wastes everyone's time. I too have been appalled in the newspaper articles what happened to the Hesperia mayor at his funeral and leading up to the detainment at the Hesperia City Council meeting. And again, more Facebook postings of what occurred here in the City Council just recently. So this is a wise move. Again, you've been very patient. I hope that it's a unanimous vote tonight to take this action. And again, we do hope that the recall is going to be a way where we
Have
can,
30
as
seconds.
citizens, take care of and change the situation. Thank you.
Robert Luton, and then after Robert, Terry Caldwell.
I think her own words, Bianca Gomez, her own words pretty much sums everything up when she said, "I'm not here for 3 votes. I'm just trying to disrupt the meetings, create chaos. and she should definitely be recalled. Remember her words. I'm not here for 3 votes. Thank you.
Terry Caldwell, and after Terry, Ramiro Rodriguez.
And Mayor, members of the council, I never, ever thought that I would be in front of my friend Jim Cox, who I've worked with for 50 years, saying, Jim, I disagree with you. One of the rarest events in my life to say, I think you're wrong. I say that for this reason. This community is divided. You've all acknowledged that. What is not being acknowledged is adequate coverage of the grief that you all are going through and the disasters that Blanca Gomez is creating for this fine city. The biggest reason is you're not getting any journalistic coverage to speak of. There are people in this town who despise what Blanca is doing, but they're also questioning what the other 4 members of this council are doing. The old adage that silence is golden. And this is an opportunity for you as a team to stand up and be counted and show this community that you are not supportive of all of the bad things that Blanca Gomez is doing to this city and all of the handicaps that she's putting on the city manager and all of the other staff members who were laboring in the vineyards to create an image of economic prosperity and a reason for people to come here and invest and create jobs. I urge you, I beg you to vote, whether you call it a motion for censure or whatever you choose to call it. I recognize that it has no legal effect. I know that your city attorney will tell you that it's just a piece of paper. But it's not to the people who will read the paper and know that the 4 of you have had enough, that you have bound yourselves together to deal with a problem for this city. And yes, it's painful, and I agree with everything the other 4 members have said about what's going on and how disruptive it is. But the 4 of you need to send a statement to the residents of the city of Victorville and to the residents of the Victor Valley that enough is enough. And
you have 30 seconds.
While you can't control her, you can't shut her up, thank goodness, but you can put a distance between the 4 of you and the image that you represent for this city. I urge you to vote for the motion to censor or whatever you choose to call it. Thank you.
Ramiro Rodriguez, and after Ramiro will be Alejandra Diaz.
Who doesn't love a good magic show? I think we all love a good magic show. Right now, we're watching magic being happening right here in this council chamber, focusing all our attention on Blanca. All she's doing, she represents the people. And then you get people riled up. Then you contract these professional protesters that go all throughout the Southland protesting whoever they get paid for. See, me, I live here. This is my driver's license. I live here in Victorville. The protesters, I see them in Redlands, in Bell, in Cudahy, in Oxnard, in Santa Clarita. They're attacking that other person. For somebody that really prostitutes their identity, their culture for money, I really think that's improper. But you know what? It's a free country. You can do whatever you want. As long as they're paying you, go for it. But things for right now, Blanca this, Blanca that. Blanca, she's doing this, she's terrible. She's an embarrassment to the city. Let's get her out. The embarrassment is that we got sued by the SEC, and And that's the embarrassment that cost us $19.6 million. $8 million was to bail out our city manager. We can't write any bonds for the next 2 years because we got sued. 81 people went to court. And here's on the Victor Valley, the people, the defendants, were Mayor Pro Tem Jim Cox, Councilman Jim Kennedy, former Councilman Ryan McKeon, former City Manager John Roberts, which he left right away, former elected Ruby Cabrales, Joanne Allman, and Terry Caldwell. These are the defendants in that lawsuit. And the city lawyer, I can't pronounce his name, Andre Zabornowski. So there's $19.6 million of our money. You guys work for us. We don't work for you. You represent us. That's the democracy. It doesn't come easy. There's no magic thing out there that's going to say you guys are going to do the right thing for us. The thing is, questions are being asked. She asked a lot of questions. That is true. Questions that sometimes in the backup materials don't come up. I came up and asked for the backup materials because why are they raising the money for this gentleman? Why are they allowing it? Nobody answered until she asked the question. That's what we want to know. That's all. We have a golf course that's bleeding us $500,000
I have 30
a year.
seconds.
That's kind of antiquated, and there's really no accountability for anything. Everything is just to blame Blanca. But what's going to happen with those $19.6 million of the taxpayer funds from the city of Victorville? Who's held accountable for that? And the embarrassment of the SCC, the same entity that put Martha Stewart in jail, sued the city of Victorville. Who's going to be accountable for that? The re-election, huh?
Your time is up.
Alejandra Diaz, and after Alejandra, Maria Reese.
Good evening, City Mayor and Council. I definitely like everybody's speech today. One thing that I like about Jim Cox is the lies that he said. That he said if we need to complain about you guys, that we need to request the information to where to. Well, that right was denied to me when I wanted to complain about Mayor Garcia. I walk into the city hall and request the city clerk for a form or where to complain about Mayor Gloria Garcia and how he mistreated me and violate my freedom of speech to allow me to speak. You know what they did? They laugh about me. They say, who are you going to complain about Mayor Garcia? That's the treatment that I got. So, Mr. Jim Cox, what you're saying is a lie. You guys are not available to give us the tools to complain about what you guys doing wrong. I agree with Mr. Negretti that it says that there is no reason to be laughed about. Tell that to our Mayor Garcia, that she even squeezed herself to laugh about us and our faces. That is very, very disrespectful. You need God in your heart, because you're a very, very narcissist and very racist person. Somebody in the public mistreated us when we got here. They didn't call the police on them. They didn't call nobody. But as soon as we raised our voice requesting for assistance, they asked us to leave. Is this freedom of speech? Are you guys doing the right thing? This gentleman to my left yelled at us that we're thieves, that we're liars. I think we know who's a thief here. We pay millions and millions from our money, taxpayers, to defend the city lawyer, to defend the city manager, right? Maybe you bother so much with Blanca Gomez because she asked questions that nobody wanted to ask. The question bothered all of you. And yes, why? Because nobody wants to answer to that questions. You guys don't want to have those questions.
You have 30 seconds.
You guys don't want to provide with the tools that we need to work together. You all, 4 of you, are bad leaders. You guys not good leaders because you cannot unite it to work with her. You want to do who she serves and underserved? She helped us to deliver food to the ill, to the elderly, to the housebounded. She helped us to that. None of you care for the people. She's for the people, and that's what it bothers
Time is
you.
up.
But we pay you. You guys are our employees. Thank you.
Maria Reese, and then after Maria, Stella May.
Well, that has certainly been a lot of discussion. I'm Stella May. I'm here on behalf of the Concerned Citizens of California. I drove up here to represent those people that are your constituents that live here that are at work right now. Mr. Kennedy's remarks, as well as everybody else's, on point, eloquent. Where do I begin? Ms. Gomez. Missy, would you mind looking at the person that's talking to you? Obviously, you're feeling guilty. Anyway, please vote to censure her. But in addition, I believe you are within your rights to pick up the phone and call the DA. She has violated the law in so many ways. Formal declarations from each of you enumerating the things that she has done that have been against protocol for city council members. In addition, the private citizens that have been up here speaking regarding her egregious behavior, in fact, unlawful behavior, her affirmative stances to violate the laws are in direct violation of so many laws. Abuse of power under color of law. That is what you're doing, Ms. Gomez. That is a statute, and that involves financial penalties and jail time, or both. Violation of the Unruh Act, section, I believe it's 51, to deprive people of rights based on political affiliation. Your abuse of power, the list could go on and on and on. I'm not going to use up all 3 minutes. I'm just going to say that I applaud your efforts in trying to censure this woman. However, she's doing you a disservice, and I believe if you confer with the city attorney, he would be able to formulate something where you could pick up the phone and file formal, either individually or collectively, charges against this woman and have her removed from office for just cause. There is an abundance of laws that she has violated. And if you confer with a couple of the people from, Ms. Robin Viston from We the People Rising, she has a multitude of videos that show...
You have 30 seconds.
Clear evidence, per se, that this woman has no intention of representing people in a lawful manner, and she is clearly biased. Again, please censure her and pick up the phone and call the DA. They need to file charges against her. Thank you.
Robin Hepston, and then after that, Smitty.
Wow. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but then, of course, my name was thrown out there. I'm Thurston Smitty Smith. I do sit on Mojave Water Agency, elected official for, 12, 14 years. A few years back, myself and Russ Blewett met with Councilmember Gomez to try to kind of tell her what she needed to do, reach out with an olive branch, because she threw the grenade in the room and blew everything up. But they didn't quite listen. Blanca, can you stand up and show everybody who you're really representing tonight? Because we all take an oath of office to represent the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California, not the Mexican flag, young lady. The other things I'm a part, because I mentioned the last time I was at this podium, I said I'd put the first $1,000 into this recall. and I'm trying to make it work. We need the people of Victorville to get involved, all of you to get involved. That is the only way you're going to be able to get this council member off your dais. Simple as that. It's up to the people of Victorville. I can't do it. You can't do it. You can censor. I would love a 4-1 vote. I don't know if she'd do it for herself. I'm just saying. But what we would like to see, Blanca, because in the records request, you have an address over here that you don't live in. You have an address over here that you don't pay rent at. Where do you live? Because it's going to come out. You know that as well as I do. You are a public official. You are an open book. You cannot hide no more. There is multiple investigations going on. Be careful, because they will be coming knocking at your door. You know, so you can throw rocks in a glass house, but it doesn't work in politics. I'm just letting you know that. So I'm asking the people of Victorville to know who you're voting for. Research your candidate, because you have cost this city all the council's allotment for their travel. You've overspent your own money in FPPC filings that you do not claim, that is gifts to you, that will be investigated. But you don't say that to no one else
You have 30 seconds.
up here of what you're doing and what you're spending your money on and what you're doing for this community. Victorville residents, rise up. It's time.
Christine Blakely. Christine Blakely, and then after Christine, Joe Foggetti. I'm sorry? Oh, you want to go on to the next one? Certainly, no problem. Joe Foggetti?
Well, nice witch hunt. Jim Cox, how many addresses do you think I have?
How many what?
How many addresses do you think I have?
I have no idea.
Right, but last time I was here, you stated I don't live in Victorville. So obviously you don't know, okay? And I think Keith and George and was Eric, I seen you the other day, I asked a valid question, and you ran off, okay? Rick, I've been trying to get a hold of you about the hit and run on my vehicle since April, and nobody's called me back or investigated, okay? Very bad. We know who the person is and how to do it, but you have refused to have Sergeant Kelly investigate. But anyway, let's look at Blanca. You all got...
You have to direct your questions to the
Yeah.
council, and...
Okay, we'll look at Blanca.
We're on item
Let's just take her
10.
out back and burn her at the stake. It's just like the old days, you know? Come on, let's go. You know? Let's drag her by the horse, you know, whatever. You know, how many, each one of you, don't perform what you do? And you pick on her? This is a witch hunt. And this is to make you look good by pointing out her that's bad, but you miss the facts that this is the worst city in California to live. The crime is unbelievable, and you pick on her. This is not the issues you need to be looking at. As far as the United States goes, California is an embarrassment. And you're the biggest embarrassment because in California, you're the most dangerous city to live in. You don't know what you're doing, okay? But you pick on her to deflect the stuff off of you, and it's a witch hunt. Would you like to pick on me? No eye contact? So we're going to burn her, Rick? Should we take her outside? Off with her head? What you're doing is not right. And you need to
Direct your
just stop it.
questions to the council.
Okay. Well, who do you want me to stare at? You? You know? Okay. It's ridiculous what you're
You
doing.
have 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I'm looking at the council everywhere. I don't need to stare just at you. And you don't pull that with me. I'm looking at everybody because I'm looking at their faces and this nonsense has got to stop right now, okay? Because each one of you have done something wrong, and we could go back and tear you apart, correct? Am I going to get my investigation for the hit and run?
Your time is up.
Thank you. Off with her head.
Those were all the cards that I had. So at this time, I need to have a motion.
Madam Mayor, somebody has a card?
The last name? Well, this is D10. Are you on D10 or E1? I have one for you. Oh, that's okay. You can speak. You can speak. You made it out for E1. That's okay. You can speak now.
Before I begin, she's breaking the Brown Act right now. She has a camera going, and she's not authorized to do that. She's not part of the cameras that should be going up there. May I have her turn it around?
Just continue.
Just continue. She can't. She's not allowed to turn that around. Because she's breaking the Brown Act. Okay. I agree with the council to censor her. I agree to have a recall about her. But my main topic is going to be about what's happening in this country, in this city, in the state of California. I am wearing a shirt, and it's Marcielo Baricello. He was murdered by an illegal alien, and I have a right to use that term, even though people call it hate speech. Read the Constitution. For 24, okay. I want to talk about Blanco, and I'm going to save this for something else. Now, when I met her in Rialto, and yes, there are pictures of her being there, not representing this council. I saw her, and she pointed her finger at me, and sorry to say, I had just come down, they figured out, with cancer. And she wanted to know why I didn't run for city council. And I tried to explain to her, but then she just ignored me and looked the other way, just like she's doing right now. I don't think it's right to run for a city council or a school board or something like that. If you're ill and you're fighting something, then when you get well, go ahead and do it. She needs to get well in her own way. It seems like that all her childhood was spent being spoiled rotten by the people who supposedly loved her and did not train her up how to be a person of the United States. She's got the temperament to be. She's the stubborn, just like American citizens are. But she's got to learn some things. And it's too bad she isn't learning just by sitting there like this young man over here. Finally, he learned. He even told us at first he had a problem. But I don't think she's here for that. I think she's here just to cause a lot of chaos, which comes in a perfectly known handbook by a lot of people.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Those are all the cards that I have on this item. At this time.
Madam Mayor, I want to make it clear about my motion. It was not.
But they made out their cards to E1, not D10. Okay, go ahead and speak.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, City Manager, and command staff. My name is Ruth Cordova. I began my political career in the early 1980s, promoted and working for the Los Angeles Police Department under the command of our former Chief Daryl Gates, and was recruited by Sheriff Sherman Block. Goes to show you I'm a real veteran in the field of law enforcement and politics. I went on to law school, worked for the governor in the United States Congress. Now, I don't know Miss Blanca Gomez. I've heard about her. Having been a city council aide for the city of Los Angeles, this isn't, with all due respect, why I'm really here is to protect the integrity and reputation of the Sheriff's Department with respect to the incident that had occurred in Hesperia. Nobody has the right to abuse their powers and governmental authority. That's a clear violation of color of law, 149 PC. That's a felony. And if you council members, city officials knew for so long that there were so many violations and you had so much evidence, substantiating evidence to support that, then shame on you. I've never seen such a weak council office. And that's why the city of Victorville has so many problems. And you really need to get together as a team. With all due respect, for the benefit and the interest of the constituents at large. Your Sheriff's Department is trying very, very hard to act appropriately, to maintain safe. But then when they receive a call at Hesperia, that was clearly premeditated. You saw the video camera. And it appeared to me that Ms. Gomez was waiting for the deputy to arise. I don't know what may become of that. But I just pray to Jesus and I hope to God that the Sheriff's Department is not wrongfully defamed and miscategorized, because they put their life on the line to protect everybody. Now, you have to get it together. And you, Ms. Gomez, I really hope and pray that you come together with your leadership or your lack thereof, should there be. I'm not wrongfully accusing you.
You have
because
30
I do not know
seconds.
you. I respect the fact that you stand firm and hard for the protection, as you say, for your constituents. But you do pose a lack of leadership. And I would hope as a Latina that you represent us thoroughly, with integrity and honor. Thank you all.
That was the last person that would be speaking on this item. They were made out to E1 instead of D10, but nevertheless, they got to speak.
Now, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make sure my motion is clear. It is not a motion to censure. That's in our policy manual. That is a lengthy, complicated process that drags this business on for more and more and more meetings. I have no interest in that. I want this to be over. I just want us to make a public statement of disapproval. So that's my motion, not censure. Okay, is everybody clear?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments?
As a point of order, the mayor still has to close the cycle, and it has to come back to us. We haven't all spoken. I know I haven't.
I just asked for further questions or comments.
So I'd like to place on the record that Councilmember Negretti's first motion and now Kennedy's 2 times motions to be intrusive to the city's business. How many more of these will you have? That's truly wasting the time. You're only looking for people who are reading the newspaper, but you're not catching the majority of the people. I hope you know that. Not everybody is watching the videos, has time for it, and not everybody reads the paper, so you get a very minuscule constituency in that regard for your disapproval. You have to go out and talk to the people and be there one-on-one if you really want to engage the majority of the people who we have, over 130,000 people. This has already been addressed, and I object for the continuance of this agenda item. The city of Victorville in 2017 was at a roll value of 5.4%. The unsecured was at an 8.9%, a total of 5.7, the highest. So when former council member / mayor comes and spews lies about the growth of businesses, and I'm talking about you, Mr. Terry Caldwell. Former council member / mayor comes and spews lies about the growth of businesses, that we need to substantiate these laws with facts, but clearly he's misguided and blinded to the facts and should visit the assessor's office for data updates to see the trends with the steady incline and what is happening here in Victorville. And to quote Bob Dutton, I'm happy for I'm seeing here in the city of Victorville a steady incline. Quiero darles muchas gracias a todos por las personas que están aquí, que se han quedado hasta lo último. Yo traté de poner esta agenda para más adelante, pero obviamente no fueron los primeros pasos, no los vimos. Les quiero decir que las personas que vinieron son pagadas y partes del partido Tea
Mayor, I
Party.
call for the question.
A ellos le pagan, son prostitutos del partido que llegaron a distribuir
question has
los
been
5.
called.
I have 5 minutes and you are violating my 5 minutes. I can speak whatever language I want and you're interrupting me. So the attorney, if you can let them know based on our policy that we have 5 minutes and that's my 5 minutes. And if you want to restart the clock, I'll start it over again. Then leave. Nobody's wasting your time. You're not forced. You're shackled. You can leave. Okay?
5-minute recess. 5-minute recess. We are starting back again. Please take your seats. We're back again. How much time does she have to finish up?
2 minutes.
Blanca, you have 2 minutes to finish up.
Bueno, como les estaba diciendo y le estaba continuando, nosotros tenemos un derecho de hablar el idioma que nos da la gana y yo lo estoy haciendo ahorita. Como les estaba diciendo a las personas que están aquí, que son hispanas, que no pudieron venir a hablar, les doy muchas gracias porque se quedaron aquí hasta el fin. Recuerde que durante esos 5 minutos uno tiene que defender sus derechos. No importa qué diga el rey ni la reina de ninguna monarca y mucho menos una alcaldesa en una ciudad. Los derechos nunca te los van a poder violar, civiles. Y si lo estás viendo ahorita, estás viendo que hay mucha discriminación. So what I was saying, thank you for all those individuals who came here and stayed so long and were able to endure what is taking place. You will never take away my right to speak any other language. I am privileged in that way. And so I thank God that I'm trilingual, not monolingual. So I'm tricultural. And it's a very big blessing. And I appreciate for all of you that actually stayed at the end of the game to watch how it all plays out. My rights will never be violated, and I will continue to practice them, regardless of who the king or the queen of the United States, even for our own city mayor. I'm not going to dub down and speak whatever language she wants but my own. Thank you.
Now, I call for a motion and second, or do we have a motion already?
We have a motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yes, one more comment. I think it's real inappropriate in this meeting to speak in Spanish. I just do. I think this country is so strong, and our belief in that flag is so great that I am not bothered by a gentleman bringing a Mexican flag in and displaying it in this. That doesn't bother me. Speaking in Spanish when the rest of us don't understand what's being said is a little more offensive. But I have to admit, I've been listening to Blanca in English for 2 years, and I don't understand what she says when she speaks English. I'll call for the question, please.
I got motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Ms. Gomez voting no.
Okay, we move on now to public comments. And I'm going to have to limit speaking time to 1 minute. Due to
Public comment? Oh, my God.
Yeah. 1 minute. Madam Clerk, you want to read the statement before I start?
This is the time and place for the general public to address the City Council on any item listed or not listed on the agenda. Per Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the Council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The Council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments are to be limited to 1 minute per individual or less as deemed necessary by the Mayor, depending upon the number of individuals desiring to speak. All communications are to be addressed directly to the Council, not the members of the audience. This is a professional business meeting and courtesy and decorum are expected. Please refrain from any debate between the audience and speaker, making loud noises or engaging in any activity which might be disruptive to the decorum of the meeting. Any person or group who interferes with the conduct of a City Council meeting by willfully interrupting and or disrupting the meeting is subject to removal. A peace officer may be requested to assist with the removal should any person or group fail to comply with an order of removal by the Council. Any person or group who resists removal by a peace officer is subject to arrest and prosecution pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.9, Penal Code Section 403.
Thank you. Yvonne Moshek, and then Arthur Schaffer. Okay, got it right that time. Yvonne? And 1 minute.
Boundaries. Yes, again, my name is Arthur Schopper. I am with We the People Rising, LA County for Trump. You had an item a couple months ago to take a stance now against SB 54, the sanctuary state law. So you've disciplined the unruly child. Now it's time to discipline the state of California. You need to revisit that item. You need to oppose SB 54 on record, file an amicus brief. A new deadline has emerged, September the 10th. It is worth it. New arguments, more cities, more municipal jurisdictions that take a stance against that unlawful sanctuary state policy will ensure a swifter victory. You're a charter city, too. You must join with Huntington Beach's lawsuit and reassert your home rule. Correct me if I'm wrong. You are a charter city, I believe. You should assert your home rule. I also want to just say, I've got $20 right here that I will give to the person running the recall. I am happy to donate. This is the best $20 I will have spent today.
Time is up.
And God bless Donald Trump. And as for you, Ms. Gomez, you're fired.
Okay. Raul Rodriguez, and then after Raul, Robin Hefston. Raul Rodriguez, is he still here?
I'm going to speak about SB 54. I'm wearing the T-shirt for this individual. Joe Story was murdered by an illegal. He was coming home with his wife and his sister from a fishing trip on vacation, and the car that the other person was driving ran a red light, ended up killing Joe Story. And this is going on in this country, and nobody seems to want to let the people know. Blanca, you don't have to go. You need to know the story. There goes, she is so disrespectful, it's pathetic. Anyway, Joe Story was murdered by an illegal. This is why Deanne DeLean is going to do a letter. I think you already got the letter stating that she wants you to join the amicus brief on SB 54.
Your time is up.
The lawsuit against the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Hebston. She left. April Pinkston.
Good evening. My name is April Pinkston, and I had a script written out because there was some things that I had to say. Blanca, I don't like you. I don't know you personally, but I do not like you and what you're doing to this city. I bought a house here 10 years ago, and without the city of Victorville, I would not have been able to buy that house because they gave me a first-time homeowner's down payment assistance. I love the city of Victorville. I worked 50 years to get a house, and the city of Victorville helped me out. You are a disgrace. Now, I tried to be civil. I have PTSD, and I'm going to tell you something, lady. You are really causing some problems for me right now, wearing that flag. You are supposed to be representing...
Your time is up.
My time. I was told that I was supposed to have 3 minutes. I will tell you right now, and then I will sit down.
No,
I pray for each and every one of you by name.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
And you...
There's no 3 minutes. It's only 1 minute. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, you don't answer emails either. And right now, I'm so disgusted with most of you that I'm just... you know what? You should be ashamed of yourself.
Deanne Hudgens. And after Deanne, Robert Lawton.
I could talk fast, but I don't know if I can talk that fast. So what I'm going to do is give this to the clerk when I'm finished, because I'd like to have it entered in the record. This is to Councilman Gomez. I see that your claims that you are resourceful and defend disadvantaged communities. Is your resourcefulness that you appear at a city office, do you consider Hesperia disadvantaged? Enter an area not open to the public, cause a huge disturbance, but not before you set up your phone to video, get arrested all in the name of assisting someone to file for office, then proudly post the video, display the photo, and give an interview to your boyfriend, all this feeding your narcissistic ego and attempting to gain sympathy for your cause. Other things I wanted to say were things like voting against the city's golf course is a vote to reduce all the property values in this city, not just the ones that you hate that are around the golf course. But I think that probably doesn't matter to you since you're not a property owner and you are not even an acknowledged resident. Another question I think is interesting is your association with Maldiv. Thank you.
Robert Lawton after Robert Smitty. Robert Lawton, is he here? No? Smitty? After Smitty's Maggie.
Man, I feel sorry for you guys. I feel sorry for the city staff. They should be home with their families. This has gone on way too long. But I'll be out on the sidewalk. I'll collect some signatures. If you're a Victorville resident, come and sign the recall papers. Get a package. Go to your neighbors. Make it happen. We ought to have 10,000 signatures by the end of this week. This is terrible. Unbelievable. Have a good night.
Maggie, and after Maggie, Von McKinney.
Good evening, Your Honor, Counsel. This is a cover copy of the grand jury investigation that I'm requesting against Blanca Gomez as a citizen of Victorville. That will be in progress this week. I'm going to read something that I prepared as quickly as I can. Ms. Gomez, every Monday at 9 a.m. you have a scheduled meeting with the city manager and staff. Yesterday you were late for the meeting because you decided it was more important to come outside of the building, walk to the opposite end, and confront me because I was carrying a sign that says August 21st, censure Blanca Gomez, and you didn't like it. Listen, lady, in America, law-abiding people have the right of peaceable assembly. Check the Constitution. Your behavior crossed the line, which necessitated me having to call VVPD and file an incident report. That's number one. Number two, you are being paid to be at your meetings. You are not paid to negatively confront people at City Hall. You essentially, once again, wasted taxpayers' money by delaying staff from their duties. Their jobs and their lives do not revolve around you, period. 3, with regard to you seeking me out for a confrontation,
Your
know
time is
this.
up.
This day hasn't come yet in your young, naive, and ignorant life wherein you provoke me into a physical confrontation. But for your future reference, be aware that you should decide to cross that line and test me. Be rest assured I will not retreat, and you will go to jail again. This warning also applies to any of your other little minions. And I will finish, I'm sorry, I will give a copy to the clerk.
Yvonne McKinney, and after Iman Ramiro Rodriguez.
Mayor Garcia, council members, I'm here again asking for help. I was under the impression that the problem with the homeless or the street people, as I was told that they are called, because they don't want to have a home or they prefer to be on the street. I was under the impression that it would be on the agenda this week. I'm asking for help. I don't know, I assume that there are more important issues that I have found out that we discussed this evening, but as a business owner, taxpayer, somebody who loves this city and would like to stay in the city, I'm asking again, can you please help us with the problem that we have with the street people destroying my property? And I'm getting another letter from the city that I'm in violation and allowing people to camp on my property. Thank you.
Ramiro Rodriguez.
Someone didn't contact this lady after the last meeting. My understanding was staff was going to contact her. So please follow up, staff. I'm asking that staff contact you.
All I'm asking is for accountability to the city. A lot of things are going on that nobody responds to. It's still, instead of those 10,000 or 1,000 signatures, I'd rather have those $20 million back into the city budget. The embarrassment of the city is a lawsuit. And not only that, there's a lot of other lawsuits that have cost almost $1 billion, not lawsuits, but investments, almost $1 billion by the past mayor and the representatives. Just do your reading. Read the history of the city. The city right now is really antiquated. It's not a retirement city. The median age is 29.3 years. They're not building convalescent homes and retirement homes. They're building schools and houses. So we have to change the mindset of this city. It's not a retirement city anymore. We should really think about that and really think of who we elect, and not just because they have an Hispanic last name makes them Hispanic. We have witnessed to certain people that have the same last name, but really against that. I'm not pro-American or Mexican. I'm just a citizen here that want things to be done right and correctly. And you know what? Accountability.
Your time is
We
up.
don't have that.
Stella May, and after Stella, April Pinkston.
Hello again. I only have a minute, so I'm going to ask you to check out this. Also, it's now time for the appeal for the amicus brief as far as the Jeff Sessions lawsuit. I encourage you to agendize an item, write a formal resolution that includes language that would allow you to join an amicus brief for free. Mayor Sam Abed from Escondido is part of the amicus brief that was originally filed, and he's on the appeal along with 11 other cities and 8 other government officials. Please agendize this, and please contact Mayor Abed. This would resolve a whole lot of problems, including the current problems that you have here regarding illegals, and that's the correct terminology. It's codified. And Ms. Gomez, you besmirch the reputation of everybody every time you open your mouth.
April Pinkston, and after April, Anthony Rhodes. Anthony Rhodes. After Anthony, Alejandra, I think she's gone.
Evening, Council. I just wanted to make a quick remark for the people that are watching online, Facebook, and on the video. First, the video is having issue on the website. I think there's been noted many times. I tried to watch online, but you see the people that are coming up, Raul Rodriguez, they're paid protesters. They travel all throughout Southern California. They've been, excuse me.
Point of order, do not
Please
interrupt.
call the order. First Amendment, but these gentlemen can't respect. And we have no one ordering or ruling this meeting for everything to be procedural. I feel like this is a very animalistic environment. I'm very frustrated right now with the way this has been ongoing with Ms. Gomez and Hesperia. It's her right to be there. If they're right to be here because they're protesting and they want to say that I'm illegal, then it's her right to be in City Hall and anywhere in this country. And when people are saying that our time are up, I don't agree that our time is up, because we had Miss Maggie Martin that was able to speak for almost an extra minute.
Your time is up. Joe Forgetti.
But we have favoritism here in this
Forgetti.
chamber.
Okay, I got a minute. Crime. I was a victim of about $250,000 of crime in this city. Really bad. I don't know if Rick's aware of this, okay? You need to be a team. This is an embarrassment. It's ridiculous. None of you have any idea what you're doing. You need some leadership. And everybody has a right to be heard. I come from a royal family, and if somebody needs more than a minute, you grant them, okay, 15, 20 more seconds. What's the big deal? They have the right to be heard. Now, as far as languages, when you come to see me in the hospital, okay, and you're opened up on the operating table, okay, I speak several languages, engineering languages, Greek, Latin, and stuff. So who's going to protest my language when you're on the operating table fighting for your life? Would you like to protest that? Doesn't matter what language you speak. And everybody should learn a few languages.
Your time is up.
Good. So.
Time is up.
I get an extra 10 seconds?
Deanne De Leon.
No?
Deanne.
I'm going to read a letter I submitted to the council. Please accept this request asking the council members to consider voting not to support SB 54 of the state of California. We do not accept the idea of sanctuary towns, cities, counties, or state. We need to follow our country's laws, and the city council needs to follow them too. The entire council had to swear our country's oath, which states that you shall protect our people from those who are trying to harm or hurt our citizens, both foreign and or domestic. Develop your courage and follow the other cities around us. You were born with the courage of the United States American citizen, just like our original fathers who signed our Declaration of Independence. They gave away a lot. Step up and prove your citizenship as a United States citizen. Please follow our Constitution and support our federal government on the Magus Brief lawsuit against the state of California. This action will not cost the city of Victorville anything.
Your time is
Thank
up.
you for your thank you in advance. God bless this council. God bless the United States of America. You have, the city clerk has this letter.
Okay, thank you. Those are all the cards that I have, so we move on to reports from city manager. I know she did, and I called her name, and I didn't get a response. Okay, you can come up. Okay, just.
My name is Christine Pepper Blakely. I'm running for city council. Nobody's going to like me right now. Not you guys. I'm going to say this real fast. I agree with Jim Cox. Yes, our city is divided. One spare tire on the car did not cause all the division. It was all the tires. The reason we are divided is because our citizens do not trust you guys. The reason they do not trust you guys is because we have lost faith in you. The reason we have lost faith in you is because you lied to us. You play with our money and you play with our emotions. We have invested taxpayers' money in defending our city manager in stuff we should not have been involved in. We vote for things that you do not honor. We voted for things that you go behind closed doors and you turn around. You do not allow business to open. If you did, downtown Victorville would be thriving. We would have schools. Our streets would be fixed. Yes, you are fixing downtown Victorville because it's election year. Because I lived on 4th Street back in 1980-something, and it was dark then. It's dark over by Mojave Vista Elementary.
Time is up.
I lived over there, and it was dark over there then, and it's dark over there now.
Your
And the
time
lady
is up.
emailed in because she was scared for you to send code enforcement out.
Ma'am,
Stop
your
lying
time
to
is
the
up.
residents. And have a nice day.
Okay, we're moving on to reports from city manager.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, we've got a few events this week at the Victorville City Library, 3 of them in fact, Wednesday, Thursday of this week. First one is an Alzheimer's education class. It's Wednesday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is put on by the Alzheimer's Association and open to Victor Valley residents. Another class at the library, adult nutrition class, Thursday, August 23rd, 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning. This one's put on by Champions for a Change and open to Victor Valley residents as well. And then finally, expungement clinic, 12 p.m. to 2 on Thursday, August 23rd. This is put on by San Bernardino County Public Defender's Office and open to Victor Valley residents. This is where you'll have the opportunity to meet with attorneys from the Public Defender's Office to see if you qualify to have prior criminal convictions dismissed. In that case, that event is limited to 25 people. That's all I have.
Thank you. Now we move on to discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming city council agenda.
Yeah. One item, Madam Mayor. A couple weeks ago, I asked that we agendize, or maybe it was a month ago, we agendize discussion about our ordinance and all the problems with us not permitting the Chalice Festival and so on. But after rethinking that and doing some reading from LA Times and others, there are so many confusing issues in this issue related to the state of California. Our ordinance is not the problem, so tinkering with our ordinance is not the solution. So I'd like to suggest we take that whole subject off the agenda, relieve staff from the task of doing all that work to find out in 6 months the state of California changes things again. So I would like to do nothing on that issue and drop it.
Very well. Okay, so that will not be agenda.
Is that our motion?
I'll make it a motion because we had a motion to put it on.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Cox. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Ms. Gomez voting no.
Ready?
No.
Blanca?
Yeah. So I like to recommend that in our next amendment, our next police amendment, that's what I'm referring to, that the police contract have a proposed body cam. And I like to start the discussions and the negotiations early by next month, September. So in other words, I know Apple Valley has those as a pilot program. So I'm hoping that the city of Victorville will adopt that and have body cams as well. So I'd like to see that in September for discussions, and by the next amendment, which would be the 43rd Amendment, to actually see it implemented on our police officers in Victorville. And that's my motion.
Is there a second? There being no second, the motion dies.
The second thing that I like to bring up is I noticed that a lot of our constituency doesn't have the privilege of being up here and asking the questions that they would like to ask, especially understanding the question or anything that's on the agenda. And I've seen other cities that have at least 5 minutes where staff briefs them on what is happening. And I have yet to see anybody do a presentation unless it's a special presentation. So I like to start seeing our department heads letting us know what is really taking place behind those closed doors. We don't get enough memos as council members, and I know the city constituency does not have the privilege of being here every night that they are first and third Tuesday. So that's my motion.
Is there a second? There being no second, the motion dies.
Now we move on to reports from council members. 5-minute time limit.
Yes. I would like to share publicly that the rail in front of El Tío Pepe Latin restaurant is city property. I was here when we voted on it, and so all of us are aware that that's city property. Unless I'm mistaken, you guys can correct me, city staff. For approximately the last 7 months, there have been 2x4 pieces of wood since the accident of a vehicle. When will the city be fixing this? I know we're really adamant on getting our constituents to fix the issues that they have on their property or on the land. I think we need to be a role model and do the same thing. It's been 7 months, and I know that there's a lot of unhappy people, and that really looks tacky for that restaurant. And we're trying to beautify the aesthetics of our community. I think we need to start first with ourselves. And if not, please give me an explanation how long it takes to order the parts. Have we forgotten? Or what the issue is with that, because I have a lot of constituents, especially in the restaurant, that don't like how that looks very tacky. The next thing that I would like to do is that same rail, that city property, has a lot of campaign signs on it. And the last time I was aware, we're not supposed to be putting any campaign signs on city property. And a constituent came up to me and said that's visual pollution to them. And we are in election season, and that is actually city property. So I said I would make sure that I would at least put it on the record. And Mr. Negretti, your sign happens to be there as well. So I think as leaders, we knew we casted a vote there. Hopefully we can role model the same. The last thing is, muchas gracias a todos, y juntos seguiremos adelante descubriendo las codicias. Thank you.
Move we adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.